Hey, fight fans! Welcome to Caveman'S Corner with your hosts, Jeff Dens.
All right, fight fans, I'm here again with Erik Herbert, who's returning for part 2. If you missed part 1, you're a sucker. You should go listen to it. He's a real American hero, and you can't hear better. How you doing today, Erik?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me back.
Awesome. First of all, I got some stuff from Ray Aris, who didn't think I'd actually say this to you, but I'm not scared to because we're separated by 2 desks and you left your gun at home. You said you got to lay off the cop donuts to make weight because you missed weight for your jiu-jitsu tournament.
Well, to be fair, I didn't miss weight, but weight was a factor in me deciding not to drive to New York City to compete this last weekend. And yeah, there's a couple of reasons, but being a little heavy and not knowing if I would really perform after cutting the weight was definitely one of them. Yeah. So thanks, Ray. Thanks for throwing me out there.
I'm not scared to say it how it is. He also wanted you to know that Dr. LaPointe works at Sisters Hospital because he works with him a little bit. The doctor that worked on Erik's knee.
Yeah, again, that's great. If anybody has any knee problems or if you're just looking for just a good orthopedic surgeon, I would definitely highly recommend Paul LaPointe. So if he's listening, thanks for all the help 5 years ago, man. He saved my life.
All right, well, we're going to go right into the next part of Erik's life. We started out, first we went through his life as a Marine, then we went to his life as a fighter, and now we're going to talk about his adjustment as a coach. So you and Don Lilly started Victory. And going there, man, you had some of the best fighters going around. It was really tough, really brutal. Can you talk a little bit more about how you, Don Lilly, and Tommy put that all together?
Yeah. So at first it started off with me and Don, and we opened up a gym in the city of Tonawanda. Later, we wanted to expand that gym. It was pretty small. We had a small team. We didn't have a cage in the gym. We struggled with finding permanent coaches and things like that. I've actually wrote about that a couple times on my social media sites. The struggles of you just having good coaches, reliable coaches, and when you run a gym, trying to build a staff as well as a team. But after being in business for a couple years, I don't even know if it was 2. It was probably like a year and a half. We decided we wanted to go bigger. And so we moved to Sportsplex, which is in North Tonawanda, and that's kind of where things really took off for us as far as competition-wise. We really built a good team, and we had, the first, or I don't know if it was the first, I know there's some others, but some of the first amateur MMA champions, and then some of the first pro fighters, and I mean legitimate pro fighters, like, guys who were competing against UFC level fighters. I fought UFC level fighters. We had you join the team who fought, number 1 contenders in Bellator and stuff like that. And we also tried to put a face of the female MMA with a fighter named Val Aspaz and then, later Kristen Janice and, some other fighters who came along when we were over there. So, yeah, man, we just kept plugging away and we had some good success. And then, some things happened where we thought it would be best to kind of merge everybody in the area, and we met with Mike Dubb, who was really...
I just want to walk you back a step real quick because there's a lot going on here that we haven't really talked about.
Sure.
So when you and Don Lilly got the fight team going, you had to stand up with you and Tommy, and you had to wrestling with Don. Can you talk about the merger with Buffalo BJJ and how it actually came to work with you? Because I got a great story. I want to tell it. If you skip over that part, my story sucks and it's not going to make sense. So we got to start there.
Yeah, so it definitely slowed me down because honestly, so much happened in such a short period of time, and it seems like it was like 15 years ago, but it's really only like 3 or 4. So I don't want to leave out any details. So definitely feel free to jump in and remind me. But yeah, so we had a revolving door of grappling coaches, of jiu-jitsu coaches, and little bit of that came from me because I didn't really understand the importance of jiu-jitsu as a wrestler. I just thought you wrestle people, you punch them on the ground, and that's all you really got to do. Jiu-jitsu is kind of stupid. And we had probably I'd say 3 different blue belt jiu-jitsu coaches. One of them was a phony. He said he was like a black belt, and he wasn't, and I didn't really know any better, so we got rid of him. Then we had a legitimate blue belt who ended up being a friend of mine, and he taught for a while, but then he got deployed. He was in the military. And then we had a catch wrestling coach come in, His name was
Boyd?
It was Boyd, yeah, Boyd Ritchie. And he was, like I said, I've said this before, one of my regrets was not learning from him more, because there's still things that he showed that I use today in my jiu-jitsu, and I do think there's a lot of similarities, and I do think that a lot of the catch stuff can throw jiu-jitsu guys off, and people who write catch wrestling off because it's a lot of pain, it's a little bit brutal, it's like pain locks, it's not always maybe as quote-unquote technical. I think catch has a huge place, and especially in MMA you can find a lot of good stuff in that, curriculum or teaching, if you will. But Boyd moved away. We had a good relationship with him, but he moved for his job, and then we got a hold of at the time he was a purple belt, now he's a black belt, a guy named Matt Godden, and he took over jiu-jitsu teaching at No-Gi for a while. I don't remember exactly how long, but it was him, a guy named Roscoe, and Dan Donahue. That was kind of the one. They were 2 blue belts and a purple belt, and they came to our gym once a week, and they taught jiu-jitsu to the fight team. And Matt decided to leave and go to Western New York MMA, and we parted amicably. Obviously we didn't want him to go, but it was what was best for him. So that brings us to Buffalo BJJ. I said, man, I've gone through coach after coach after coach trying to figure out this jiu-jitsu and submission stuff. I'm going to go all in. And there was a guy, Chuck Anslone, who's a black belt. And we had an agreement. I learned a lot.
Before we get there, can we go through the belts real quick? So in jiu-jitsu, there's a black belt, a brown belt, a purple belt, a blue belt, and a white belt. So black belt would be the highest, white belt would be the least highest. And to be awarded a belt, you have to receive it from a legitimate black belt. So all your guys are fighting, and while they're fighting, they can't receive any belting in jiu-jitsu as well. So that's another problem you have as a general one. Can you just go over that real quick so maybe the people that don't know jiu-jitsu can understand a little bit too?
Yeah, so I talked about last podcast of kind of like wearing too many hats and wanting to coach and be a fighter. I didn't really understand the business structure that's behind the belt system and jiu-jitsu. Now, it's more than just business. It is like personal accomplishment, receiving a belt and stuff like that. But basically what I was doing is I was running a fight team that were pretty freaking good, in my opinion, on the ground and overall, but we were all white belts. And you see that a lot. I mean, it's not uncommon. John Jones is a white belt. You know what I mean? It's just because we, as fighters, don't have the same emphasis on grappling in the gi. The gi, people call it all different stuff that aren't in the, around it, but it's the thing that looks like a robe. That's what people say the most to me. Do you wear that robe? Well, we call it a gi. It's a different gi than like a karate gi. It's a thicker gi. It's a heavier gi. And what you can do is you can grab, push, pull, and stuff like that. Well, in MMA, you don't wear that gi. Obviously, you're shirtless and you have shorts on. So a lot of fighters choose not to practice in that gi, especially if you come from wrestling, because you feel it slows you down. You're not going to have that to grab in the cage. I don't need it. Well, the belt, the colored belts that Jeff mentioned, white, blue, purple, brown, black, keep. That's the belt that you wear to keep that gi closed, and that system you get promoted, you all the way from white to black, and it's a big deal. They're life accomplishments. Oh, I got my purple belt. Oh, I got my brown belt. I'm a black belt finally. I mean, it's like that can be a 10-year journey for a lot of people. That can be a master's degree. Some people invest in their jiu-jitsu or karate, and they receive these belts, and that's what they go and open up a gym with, and that's their education, right? And they try to make a living off it. So that's kind of, but again, I didn't care about that. I didn't think it was important. I didn't care if I could make money as a business owner pushing that philosophy. I just wanted guys who could just really beat people up and not get submitted. Knowing what I know now, being older, they go hand in hand. You should be training the gi if you want to be good at MMA. And most champion MMA fighters have trained in the gi. Or maybe they haven't, but they're freaking unbelievable, world-renowned collegiate wrestlers, and they can maybe get away with a little bit more. But if you name the MMA fighter, if you name 10 of them champions over the last couple years, most of them are training in the gi pretty regularly. Does that cover that? Or
that's pretty good. That's
okay.
Pretty good.
All right.
And that's how you make money too. Like getting your guys to do jiu-jitsu, regular people doing jiu-jitsu with the fighters is a great way to make money too. I know Victory had a little bit of a hard time generating money because all you guys were doing was fighting. So it goes hand in hand as a business owner at times.
Yeah.
All right, back to Buffalo BJJ.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So So like I said, I just got tired of the revolving door of grappling coaches, and I decided to reach out to an area black belt. At the time, he was the only area black belt. His name was Chuck Anslone, and I decided, to reach out to him and said, this is who I am. This is, he knew of me and I knew of him. And I said, could we figure out some type of affiliation? I don't want to be going through coach after coach after coach. And he agreed. We had an agreement. I learned, I would say, a lot from him. I learned more from his guys than him himself. But, honestly, I can't really badmouth him. A lot of people in the area will badmouth him. But for the 2 years that I was under his instruction as a white belt, green belt, and blue belt, I really can't say that he ever screwed me over. I didn't agree with everything that he did. I would look at some of the decisions he'd make and say, man, I'm not cool with this. But at the end of the day, he never really, he was never really out to get me or anything like. And a lot of people say that about him, but he wasn't to me. So
yeah, me either. I studied with Chuck for a long time. This is how I actually met Erik when our two gyms merged. And I'd say actually you did a lot of coaching of our fighters. All the guys that fought at Buffalo BJJ, we had a bunch of fighters there too. At the time, I think we had like 8. And we all came over and we trained with Erik. And Erik just took us under his wing into the MMA realm. And it's like a whole different world when you go to Victory because there's no playing around. They're really fighting. And like a lot of our guys weren't used to that and they get hurt a lot. But it is like a wrestling atmosphere. It's like a totally different world for jiu-jitsu guys to come in and actually train at Victory and get the toughness and grittiness that we needed to fight. So
yeah, and it was and that kind of also was the problem at the end there because when I knew that I wasn't going to be, I didn't want to be affiliated with Buffalo BJJ months and months and months and a lot of money before I actually ended the affiliation. But what I couldn't stomach was leaving Kevin Cummings at the time, Keith, Brandon Muckle, yourself, Val, and there's other guys too, and I'm forgetting them, but I remember Craig came over a couple times, and he's with us now. But
Corey Chapman,
yeah, and they they were good guys, and I can't say like these are my best friends in the world, but at the time, like I really gave a shit, like I did not want to be like, hey Val, you can't train here anymore. Hey Jeff, sorry you can't train.
Or make us choose,
or make you choose because
that's what happens a lot in jiu-jitsu.
Well, see that's the thing. I knew I didn't give a shit. I would have still let the 5 of you guys come, and I wouldn't have charged you to work out at my gym because at that. I wouldn't have cared, but I knew the other end of it, and the other end of it was that once we stopped affiliating, Chuck was not going to let you guys continue. At least I didn't think he was going to let you guys come over and keep training. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to lose these. They were a super talented group, good teammates, very knowledgeable in jiu-jitsu, helping us with our jiu-jitsu. And but what was happening is that I was paying Chuck to be affiliated just to coach his guys, really.
And I want to tell a great story about this. There's 2 great things happened to me with Erik that actually made me like respect him so much as a coach. Number one is I was having a really hard time. I was getting sick all the time making weight to fight Sauce. So Erik took me to his house after practice one day. He's like, you look like I forgot what you said, but you said something with a lot of curse words in it. And I was scared, so I just followed you to your house. And you gave me all these vitamins, and you're like, take this and take that and take this and take that. So we go to Erik's house, and I walk in, and Diane is there. She's like, it's like a normal thing that like fighters are just coming in his house to take all their personal vitamins and stuff. And Erik just gives me all this stuff off of his vitamin rack. He's like, here, take this. I don't need this. I'm not taking it now. So he gave me this whole handful of pills, a pill jar. He's like, go home and take all this. And that's how I ended up making weight to fight Sauce. And then then the next fight we went down. This time I actually trained. At the time I was training at 3 different gyms. I was going down in the morning at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. I leave. I drive down to Jamestown. I go spar down there. I drive back to spar at Victory in the afternoon at noon. And then I go and I train at Buffalo BJJ at 7. So like I was all over the place. For the next fight, I worked pretty much just at Victory. At that time, Erik was working with all the Buffalo BJJ fighters. So I go over there, and we're going down to this fight in Pittsburgh. All the actual Victory fighters got eliminated from the card. So it was just me and this other guy, Corey Chapman, both from Buffalo BJJ. So Erik and Don Lilly, they rent this RV, or borrow an RV from the guy that worked, whatever. This crazy guy that doesn't care about stop signs or red lights or anything like that. So we drive all the way down in his RV on Erik and Don's dime. We go down there. They corner me for the fight. We have a great fight, and they drive back. And like that's just Erik paid thousands of dollars to drive us down to PA to corner us, paying all his fees. He bought us dinner for me and Corey. Well, Corey couldn't eat because he had to weigh in the next day, but You just spend all that money, all that time for two guys that you're paying to coach, and that says a lot about you, man. I just want to tell you that.
I appreciate that. It's funny, because you don't realize as you're doing it necessarily the stuff that people remember that you do, like some of the stuff that I didn't know you were going to bring that up. I knew you might bring up the vitamin stuff. We talked about that before, but I kind of forgot that whole, not that I remember the experience. Obviously I remember coaching you there and we talk about that all the time, but like just the fact that it had that impact, it's crazy. And it makes you think as a coach, people remember different things that you do. So even as a coach, you got to always kind of have, you got to put your best foot forward, because you never know when your fighters are watching you, or you never know, even as a cop too, you don't know when people are going to watch or what people are going to see. And because, I never would have thought that. I was just trying to help you out, man. I wanted to see you get a win, and it stuck with you. So yeah, I appreciate that. I just want to say one thing though, So I don't lift weights. I used to lift weights. I was like really into it, like, I don't know, when I was like 20 and stuff like that, but I don't lift them anymore. I probably should. And I've never taken steroids. I don't go to GNC. I used to like buy the off the counter stuff. I don't take like protein. I don't do any of that stuff. But I do believe in supplements, and I believe in like natural supplements. I believe in like holistic living, naturopathic doctoring, homeopathic doctoring. I believe in that, and I have influences of that, but that's a conversation for another time. Well, the problem with Jeff is that he was cutting so much weight, and you could just tell he was just gone. His immune system wasn't there. He was getting sick. So through natural vitamin C, natural emergency packets, natural Echinacea Premium, natural Immunoplex, which is just these are all earth-grown nutrients. These aren't it's not illegal stuff. These are vitamins that you probably can't get at GNC. You probably need to go to the health food or whole food stores. And hopefully boost your immune system, or just kind of gave you a little bit of energy through the weight cut and through the training that kind of just keep pushing through. So that's really all that was.
I'm sure they're not cheap, and you just gave them to me. That was pretty cool.
Well,
I think we should get Chris on the diet too. Look at you could.
Yeah, it's funny because he said he didn't make weight. He's like, oh, I'm too fat for this, and I'm thinking, holy shit, what the hell am I then? But no, I do understand it, and I used to lift a ton of weights, and I know how expensive the supplements are, and I know what you're talking about, Erik, is like the emergency and all that. I mean, that's literally, that stuff is available at the counters, right? I mean, so, and I probably took, I did the protein shakes and all that. It's interesting to hear you guys talk about it.
Yeah. Because you can get all the time. A lot of fighters or people that I'm around, they take like these supplements called like C4 or these like crazy things. Like I when I was like 19, 20, I did do that stuff. I just took pre-workouts and stuff like that. And but I now
Janice and Mans, man, they're all over that
do
stuff.
They?
Yeah.
Do they take it? I don't like hearing that, because to me, first off, that would freak me out, man. My heart rate, I don't like it when it's all, feeling out of control like that. And then, but no.
8 of these a day, keep you healthy.
Yeah,
Rockstar.
man, I haven't had an energy
drink Rockstar. Shameless caveman plug, Rockstar.
And I'm going to say this because I'm a little older than both you guys. I took ephedrine like it was a daily vitamin. Like I was pumping ephedrine every time I would go into the gym, and I was 184 pounds. You wouldn't believe it, but 184 pounds of solid muscle. And literally every time I popped an ephedrine pill, I felt like I could run through the wall.
Right.
But my heart rate was through the roof. Never took my blood pressure or anything, right? I mean, that was what, 90, 99, 98, 99 when that stuff was legal.
Yeah.
You could buy it in every store. And, I was in the gym 7 days a week. I worked for Gold's. So, I took everything you could, nothing illegal, but everything that was available to you over the counter at that point in time I was taking.
Sure. I think when you get into like athletics, you get into that awkward phase where you just want to be better. You just want to lift more, run faster, submit, punch harder, like whatever it is. You just want to be that athlete, and you want any edge that you can get. And I'm talking like young, like in high school, I took Stacker 2, it was called, and Stackers.
Yeah, I remember that.
They had ephedra in it too, and I
Yep.
was like freaking 16, and I didn't need it, but the seniors took it, and I was a sophomore, and that made sense to me at the time. And they're like, oh, it'll make you wrestle better. I'm like, okay. And looking back, it's really stupid, really dumb. And now as a coach, I try to like tell these guys, like, dude, you do not need to. I've only been around like 2 fighters that ever juiced, and I've been around a lot of fighters. Actually, that's not true. I'm sure I've been around a lot more and I didn't know it. But 2 fighters that I've ever worked with have come out later and said, "Oh, when we were working out, when I was with you, I was on steroids," and I was like. One I kind of knew. The second one I was like, holy I never would have guessed. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I mean, nowadays they test the fighters at that level anyway. I mean, you can't even get away with it.
Yeah. When I started fighting, just about everyone I knew was doing steroids back in the day.
Really?
We weren't tested. Like all them guys.
What year was that, Caveman?
1995 to like 99.
Yeah, that makes
like
sense.
pretty much everyone I know was like, doing
it's
juice.
different.
Even the guys that suck were still like juicing.
Yeah.
It's different now too. I mean, HGH and anabolic steroids are 2 different animals, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, you don't see like when in the early and mid 90s, what Caveman's talking about. I mean, it was all synthetic steroids, right? HGH was, if it was out there, you didn't hear anything about it.
Right. No, I think that came out a little bit later on. And, steroids have been around forever, since I think like the 30s. And that's like a whole nother, mixed bag topic. I don't think you can just take steroids and get strong, but I do think if you take steroids, it's going to help with your recovery and it's going to make you work out harder.
What do you think about the top guys in UFC now? You think they're juicing?
Yeah, I think without question. I think there's 2 things. I think that there are a group of fighters that have just that are juicing and they don't know it. And when I say that, I think you can, like, for example, TRT, millions of Americans take TRT each year. I mean, I got a buddy who's like 20, and he's probably going to listen to this, so obviously I won't say his name, but he doesn't live around here anyway. But he's like, he's not even 30 years old. He's 2 years younger than me, so I think he's 29 or so. He takes TRT, and he's got, go ahead.
Can you what is TRT?
So testosterone replacement therapy, and basically from what I know about it, I don't have like a full grasp on it, but as you get older, your testosterone levels drop, and and when that happens, different things happen to your body, and it's just part of the aging process. First off, different people have different levels of testosterone to begin with. I mean, you can get guys who are just naturally them, you see them, they're just, they're bad drinkers, they're always looking for a fight, you know what I mean, and they just kind of naturally have more testosterone. But that's not really here nor there. But that becomes important when you talk about athletes, and they're trying to measure athletes' level of testosterone and what's normal. I got news for you. There is no normal. You know what I mean? Like, I know people can have a 200 over 180 blood pressure, which every doctor says is normal. Well, my grandma lived to be 98 years old with that, without blood pressure medication. So normal is such a skewed thing when it comes to an individual. But anyway, as the TRT levels... as your testosterone levels drop as you age, it's common for doctors to be prescribing testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT shots, that you can get monthly. I think that, at least that's last I checked, that's how they were doing it. And it just raises your testosterone levels, and that does a lot of things. It raises your sex drive, it raises your energy levels, it raises just mental clarity. It's going to do everything, and of course it's going to give you're going to be able to recover faster, which maybe you can work out more, and there's just a whole slew of TRT benefits that I could go and get. But if you are choosing to compete, you, in MMA at least, you cannot be on TRT. So 2 million Americans can do it, but as an athlete, you can't.
This is a great topic because I love talking about this. I think that synthetic steroids should be banned, but if you can go to a doctor's office and get prescribed something, or you can go to GNC and get something over the counter, you should never be suspended for that in any sport, because what you're talking about in fighting crosses all sports, and I totally agree. I think there's no way there's no way that these guys in the NFL, in the NHL, and every other physical sport, like, they're taking something. They have to, right? I mean, whether it's supplementation, whatever they're doing, their nutritionists, their trainers are telling them that they need to do something specific to keep them. And their body is everything they have. Mm-hmm. Your body, if you're a fighter, your body is everything that you have.
Yep, it's your career. It's your paycheck. You know.
Yeah. I would make the argument though, like TRT, sometimes you take because you have abused steroids, and you need to get the testosterone back. So you cheated, and now you can cheat more to compete. on top of that, guys like Dan Henderson, he's like 46. He's still competing.
Well, he took TRT for a long time.
For sure. And, like at some point, age is just a factor. You shouldn't.
So let me ask you guys this, because maybe I'm a little bit behind, but has TRT, quote unquote, taken over for human growth hormone or HGH?
I think it did for a while. Now I think TRT's on the way out fighter wise, because USADA's come in and they've tested, and now you really can't pass. You're going to get caught if you're using TRT, because it's going to find that the synthetic level is higher or whatever. And just the last thing with that is it's everybody is looking for the advantage. I'm looking for the advantage when I turn on my Keurig in the morning. Caffeine is a stimulant, and according to USADA and other Olympic testing and things like that, you can only have so much caffeine in your system at the same time. I'm taking caffeine.
Is that true? Is that true?
Yeah, caffeine system. Yeah. So, and I'm doing that because I need an advantage in life. I need an advantage because I'm tired and I need to go to work. And it's all. I mean, I'm taking a prescription for a sinus infection because I'm cheating. I'm trying not to let this thing heal on its own. I'm trying to speed this thing up. So I think a lot of it's all about, the whole thing is where you draw your comfort line. Some people are okay with buying it over the counter, but not getting it in an alley by a guy in a ski mask. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think if you're getting it in an alley by a guy with a ski mask, then I mean, suspension sounds okay to me, right? I mean, but when you're like, let's go to a totally different sport that makes no.
You can look up Vitor Belfort, TRT Vitor Belfort, and not TRT Vitor Belfort, and you know exactly what we're talking about. I mean, just the difference in his body.
You know what? Yeah, and I'll do that.
And we're going in the cage to try and knock each other out on top of that. So I don't want a guy having a huge advantage over me.
Well, and
trying to punch my face through. Maybe in football, but I don't want to.
Nah, I don't think football either. Honestly, I think you're right though, Jeff. I mean, when you're talking about the repercussions in fighting, I mean, you hit some guy and you find out that guy was sauced up and he fails a drug test and he freaking breaks someone's head open, like, you know, that's not the same thing as, you know, maybe a football hit or something like that. But it's much more dangerous, in my opinion, and much more raw in fighting. But even any sport, man, I mean, I don't know.
Where do we draw the line? Because this is a topic that I think needs to be talked about, and I think it needs to be talked about more, because I look at, listen, I'm not a fighter, right? I played football years ago. I lifted weight. I lifted weights like crazy. Now I'm just a great radio face. I'm a beautiful radio face. But Vijay Singh, let's look at golf. Vijay Singh got a 1-year suspension for taking deer antler spray. Right now, he was injured, and somehow, listen, I can get 3 bottles of deer antler spray for $14 on Amazon. If I can get 3 bottles of deer antler spray for $14 on Amazon, I don't think you should be suspended for a year in the PGA. Now, you guys, NFL, NHL, MMA, this is a totally different world, right? Where do we draw the line between what you can do? Why should you, Erik, not be able to walk into GNC and buy whatever is available and take it, just like you said, all of the public, and not get suspended for it?
Yeah, I mean, no, there's no. I don't know if there's a right answer. I think everyone's comfort level lies at a different spot. For example, I know fighters who are like completely against marijuana, and me personally, if I found out,
this is a great topic.
It is. This is me as a fighter. This is not me as a police officer or anything else. If I found out a guy used marijuana 30 days before I fought him, that would not change. I would not care. If he beat me, I wouldn't blame it on him using marijuana, and if I beat him, I wouldn't blame that on using marijuana. But there's other people out there who if, you know, it's, oh, that scumbag guy, he was cheating, he was smoking weed. I'm like, okay, I don't really think that's cheating. Now, that's a banned substance, not a performance enhancer.
I do think that's a performance enhancer.
Okay, so the argument...
You do?
I do.
Because, I disagree.
Listen, fighting is like mental too. So you go home, you're stressed out. If you can smoke weed and I can't smoke weed, right? You go home and you're totally relaxed, and I go home and I'm stressed out about the fight, and so I do extra workout and I blow myself up, and I'm more overtrained than you because you're going home and relaxing. I think that's a huge advantage.
I disagree.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's how. Okay, so with that being said, you took the vitamins that I gave you.
Well, what I'm saying is it's banned, so you shouldn't be able to take it. But if it's not banned and you both take it, it's not a performance-enhancing drug.
Right. So I guess your thing is you want an even playing field. You want to know that the guy that you're fighting is taking or not taking the same stuff that you are. And I get that, and I do get that because I want that too. I don't care about the banned substances as much as a fighter so the performance enhancers. Like if I find out that someone like what is it? I don't know, like weed, cocaine, like all the illegal drugs. There's other ones too that are like banned that aren't really performance enhancers. Like they don't really bother me, you know. Like I'm like, okay, the guy that does to me. That's not like I'm not gonna. It's just not gonna change. Now, if I fought a guy who's on steroids and he beat me, that might make me think. It's gonna make me think one thing or the other. Well, he cheated, or if it happens enough times to me, like you're seeing with Mark Hunt, he's going to say, well, why should I do this too?
Why am I not?
Because everybody else
right.
is, and he's fighting them. And, the same thing happened with Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong, at the highest level ever, he said when he lost his Tour de France titles, if you went down the line to the person who did not fail drug test, it would have been the 18th place person.
Yeah.
All right, so let's change hats from coach. From fighter to coach, what about as a coach? How do you feel?
Well,
about
this. So as a coach, Eric's
got a lot of hats.
Yeah. So as a coach, I want my fighters to be in positions to succeed. So although it doesn't really matter what I think about a lot of the things personally, we've chosen to compete in this sport, or I've chosen to take the profession as a cop. It doesn't matter if I agree with every single law. There's millions of them in the whole world. What matters is that if you are choosing to enforce it or play the sport or abide by it, you gotta toe the company line. And if they tell you cannot smoke weed, and you say, well, I want to smoke weed, or I want to do recreational drugs, or I want to take this. Because like USADA has like over 1,000 banned products on their list, so there's some stuff that we can get at GNC that's going to be banned, right? Or I can take TRT. My doctor gave me a prescription for it. It doesn't matter if you're choosing to go into the arena and you're choosing to subject yourself to a different set of rules than the public. And I can relate to that because in the Marine Corps it was like the same way. It's kind of always been pushed into my head that I'm choosing to be in the Marine Corps. It doesn't matter what my friends back home can do. I can't do this because this is my standard. So just to kind of wrap that up, as a coach, I hold them to the standard, most importantly, that the commission and the sport holds. So if the commission says you can't do marijuana, you can't do HGH, you can't do anabolic steroids, and the list goes on and on and on, then you know what, dude? You better not pop on those tests because this is what we're choosing to do. These are your parameters. You chose this, not me. The world needs plenty of bartenders. You can do whatever the hell you want, but if you're going to do this, you're going to do it the right way. So that's the standard that I hold the fighters to. I expect them to abide by the rules, yeah.
I could say this. I was a bartender for 13 years, so and I took everything that I could put in my body from GNC.
He is a police officer.
You know what? But I take a lot out of what you're saying because I think that. Don't you think that that's unfair? Because I do. I think it's unfair. I think it's unfair that any athlete. Listen, as a bartender now, I'm in media. Right. This is what I do. I'm helping you produce this show. This is what I do. I don't need anabolic steroids. I don't need HGH unless I want to get skinny again, right, or jacked or whatever it is. But if I can walk into GNC, and this drives me crazy, because if I can walk into GNC and I can buy a product just like any one of the 300 million Americans or 278 million Americans, why can our athletes not do that? I'm not talking about HGH. I'm not talking about TRT. I'm not talking about anabolic steroids. I'm talking about over the counter. I walk in, I grab a bottle of something, I put it on the counter, I pay for it. It's supposed to help my workouts. It's supposed to help my performance. It's supposed to help me lose weight. I've gained 100 pounds over the last 8 years. That's insane, right? So I can go in and I can say, like, well, hey, I want to lose this 100 pounds that I gained because I was in top physical condition 8 years ago, but yet you guys can't do it. I don't understand in any sport why that is an issue. And I really think that that's where you draw the line. If I can buy it over the counter, if I can walk into any store and buy it, nobody should be talking about it.
Well, the problem with that line, and I don't completely disagree with it. I don't. I actually agree with that more than I don't. The problem is that it wouldn't be banned if it didn't give an advantage, a measurable advantage. USADA bans something when they're not banning Cheerios and Frosted Flakes. They're banning things that are a measurable advantage.
But isn't that an available advantage? Isn't that an available advantage? If it's over the counter and I can walk in and buy it, isn't that just a available advantage to everyone that fights, to everyone that plays football, to everyone that plays hockey?
Yeah, I do, and honestly, I do tend to agree with that. I do. Now, I think this is where I started to get a little biased because in my fight career, I never took anything. Maybe my first couple amateur fights, I was doing like that no explode or whatever was at GNC. But honestly, I didn't do anything, so I don't really feel like when the guy, like when you just told me like Janice and they take like whatever it is that you were referring to, like my first reaction is what the hell. And so I am biased even against that, but at least that makes sense to me. That's logical. I still wouldn't go to GNC, but if the guy who beat me failed for having no explode or NO explode, whatever that stuff is called, in his system, and he bought it at GNC, well, I mean, it's probably okay with me, I guess, Yeah,
because you could have done the same thing, right? I mean, if you lose a fight and you find out the guy's put needles in his ass in a stall in the bathroom in his gym that he bought from a guy in a ski mask in the alley, you're freaking pissed, right? Yeah. You're pissed off.
Yeah.
But if you find out that the guy walked into GNC and he beat you and he's taking this supplement, my first thought, and I don't fight, but playing football, whatever, my first thought is, oh shit, I should probably get to GNC.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and how do you – I just don't understand how any sports can tell an athlete, well, yeah, the general public, well, it's available to you. You can go buy it for $14, $9. How does any sport or any regulating body say that is not welcome in the sport? Because now what am I supposed to do? I got to eat broccoli. What are they going to tell me, not to eat cauliflower?
Right.
Like,
well, it is a slippery slope when you talk about that, and even more so than how is like USADA or the athletic commissions, how are they going to tell you not to do it? How are you going to know not to do it?
Exactly.
And that's the big problem. And I do think some people fail drug test, some on accident. Like I know I don't want to say a fact, but I know pretty positively that Chad Mendez failed his drug test for acne cream. And he fought it tooth and nail. He's been on it forever.
Crazy.
He disclosed it, but this acne cream, since they switched over to USADA testing, had a steroid, if you will, that has helped that, and he's used it forever, and he openly uses it, and it's prescribed by a doctor, but it had a steroid, and it's absorbed through the skin, so there was a minute level, and it was technically a banned substance, and the guy's using it for acne. That's not giving him a competitive advantage. That's, it's prescribed and things like that, but either way, it's an accidental fail. Yeah. And I do think that does happen, and I do think it's unfortunate, but Jesus, I mean, there's just so much stuff out there that we put into our bodies. Like I said, acne cream or coffee or energy drinks or
sure.
All these things are stimulants. All these things are looking to give us some type of advantage. It really just comes down to a comfort line. Yeah. I think a lot of people do draw it at the over-the-counter stuff. I think anything that comes medically prescribed or is in a shady alley is definitely the more extreme end. But there's other people who will sit and tell you like juice up to the gills, man. Like let everybody.
I think sports would be better if we just let everyone do whatever they want. Football, like steroid football, and you just take whatever you want.
I'm going to say this:
the fights would be better.
You
could have like
my
anything goes and then nothing goes. Like 2 leagues.
My purist,
like bodybuilding.
Well, there's 2 different leagues in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's a natural and a synthetic, right?
Right. So why can't you do that for every sport? That'd be crazy good fights. It'd be crazy good football.
It'd be great, right? And there's a lot of proponents to that say, we'll just let them do whatever, and because everybody's on the same playing field, you choose to take what you have to take. Lyle Zato took steroids. Well, look what happened to him. Right, he was the best. He was one of the best players ever, and ended up dying because of brain cancer and withered away. So I'm, my purest being and my purest sports being says no. I don't want anabolic synthetic materials to overtake a sport. Right? Because that makes the sport fake. It makes it not real. But if what you're taking is available to the public, and you can walk into GNC, if I could walk into Walmart, I can walk into Walmart right now and buy anything from weight loss supplements, protein, anything that we're talking about right here, deer antler spray.
Some of that protein will put you over even.
Yeah,
some of the stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So and knowing that like now you can't take an acne steroid. Come on, there starts to become a point where things. All right, this is my biggest beef with the NFL. Right, it's become no fun because you can't do anything. You can't shoot a bow and arrow when you celebrate. You can't do anything in the NFL. It's a no fun league. But the bottom line is that's how all sports are. Vijay Singh, great golfer, gets suspended for 1 year for deer antler spray. But you can buy it for you can buy 3 bottles for $14. My point is this. I know you guys are doing this. If it's available to the public, the only thing that athletes have is their physical fitness. In any sport. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're cycling. I don't care if you're playing tennis. I don't care if you're fighting. I don't care if you're playing hockey. It doesn't matter. Poker. Right? Yeah, okay. Your mental game. Sport. Right? Yeah. I did not say I think it is a sport. But if you consider mental games a sport, then it's a sport. But what I'm saying is it seems very easy to me. The day that if something comes out and it's not it's deemed inappropriate that you can't sell over the counter, then it becomes banned. But why should, if you have no explode available to you, which I think nitric oxide basically opens up all the capillaries, opens up your veins, right? They give it to nitric oxide. They give to elderly people who have heart problems.
Mm-hmm. What about Abilene? Cutting away with Abilene.
Oh, Abilene. Right? I mean, sauna suits. It's all part of the. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, the thing it's like I said, it's all a comfort level, and I think you could ask 100 different people and probably find 100 different places
answers
on the spectrum where they feel it's okay. And you're right. I mean, there's going to be other people who say if it's prescribed by a medical physician, you should absolutely be able to take it. And I'm like, okay, but it's legal. It's legally prescribed. That makes it just as legal as over the counter. I'm like, so, and then there's the whole, well, whatever. Prohibition didn't work for alcohol. It's not working for drugs. It's not going to work for, athletes either. And they just legalize everything. So there's all these different trains of thought. The answer is probably in the middle. I do think that if you're going to, the thing is though, here's the thing. I fought guys that were on a pretty high level. I fought UFC veterans, people who won the Ultimate Fighter. I beat guys that were in Strikeforce and Bellator. My thing is that it's not that hard to stay clean.
I agree.
It's really not that hard. And I understand as the competitive level rises, you want to keep getting that edge, and there's so much riding on it. But man, I was fighting just paycheck to paycheck, fight to fight. I was doing it too, and I just never crossed that line, and I just don't really think it's as hard as people are making out to be. I think people who are testing positive for the vast majority are people who are purposely trying to get a clear advantage over the guy that they're fighting. And so that's why usually when I'm like, oh, they failed a drug test, they're an idiot. Like, there's little sympathy. Acne cream, I'm like, okay, I wish they would do that one over, but...
Well, that's the point. The point is not the point is the line. What is the line? I totally agree with you. If you cross the line, you should be suspended. You should be punished. But the problem is, where's the line? Acne cream shouldn't fit...
Yeah.
above the line,
but
right?
But to be fair, USADA is in charge of the UFC drug testing. The SINAC, the Seneca Niagara Athletic Commission, is in charge of the King of the Cage fights. The New York State Athletic Commission is going to be in charge of the pro fights here. The line is what they say it is. It doesn't matter what I personally feel it is, just like a law. The law is the law. It doesn't matter if I totally agree with the law or not. If I'm choosing to play that game, if I'm choosing to put myself out there, the line is the USADA line.
Sure.
I might not like it, but at the end of the day,
55 miles an hour is 55 miles an hour.
You're right.
All right, so let's change hats one more time. I know I want to cut this short a little bit, but so what happens when you know a fighter is doing something? Does that affect, because you're a police officer as well, maybe they're doing something illegal and you know about it. How does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean...
Because this is a line that you're going to cross being a coach in the sport that we're in.
Well, yeah, I've already had to kind of cross it over the last couple of years. I mean, I'm pretty upfront about my stance. Like, I'm here as a coach. My department knows that I coach, and they've said that that's okay. And anything that goes with that, positive or negative, that's what I'm choosing to do. For the most part, the guys and girls have respected me enough to, treat it as though they know what I do for a living. They're not, I don't hide it. I'm a proud police officer for a good department, and they haven't put me in too many positions that have made, like, I haven't, like, seen an illegal gun, or I haven't, like, had to bail them out of jail, or I haven't had to, so I'm not really, for the most part, haven't been put in a situation that's made me feel uncomfortable as a police officer. That being said, some of them are young, some of them, go out and drink. I try to tell them about, the dangers of a DWI, or the problem if, you get a UFC comes to Canada and you can't get over the border because you were 22, you had a couple of drinks, and now you can't cross the border, and now you lost out on a UFC fight. Or if you're smoking weed and takes a short notice fight, late replacement fight, and now you can't pass a weed drug test. And that's the thing too that I try to tell them, and they've heard this from me before, so if they're listening, they need to listen again. You don't get to pick, some of the best fighters in the world, like we have all these talented guys at the gym. I tell them, I've seen guys way more talented than them, but they haven't mentally been able to keep it together, or criminally been able to keep it together, or financially been able to keep it together. The most talented guy is not the guy who's always the champion of the world or making the biggest name. The guy who usually makes it the farthest is the one who can keep his shit together, and that's very true, or stay uninjured, etc. So when they want to smoke weed, or they want to get a DWI, or do whatever, and then they get to take a fight on short notice, biggest fight of their career, and they can't pass a weed test, well, you're a fucking idiot. I mean, that's just plain and simple, and I don't have a lot of sympathy for that. I mean, I'm going to watch you fail that test, and I'm going to say, what are you thinking? And don't you're not a victim either. You're not a victim by this and that, they didn't know, I did. No, dude, you know the rules. You're choosing to put yourself here. You have guys like me, guys like you, guys like other people at our gym, talking about this stuff openly with these guys, mentoring them, telling them to make the right decisions. If they fail it. And you know what? That's on them.
All right, too hypothetical. With someone as a coach about it. Fighters run back looking for stuff, and all their drug paraphernalia falls out of their bag. So you're with this guy. So maybe when you go out to eat later, you guys all get pulled over or something, and they have that on them. How does that affect you as a police officer?
Well, I mean,
this is something guys should think about that you coach.
Let me tell you, let me just make this clear, and I'll make this clear to anyone that needs to hear it. If you're bringing that stuff and you're within arm's reach of me, you're going to have a lot bigger problem than what's going to happen if you get pulled over, because you're going to be in that cage with me, and we're going to figure that shit out. You're not going to put me or my coaching staff or the good fighters on the team who are making our decisions in a bad spot, because I don't know the drug you're referencing, whatever the paraphernalia is. It could be a needle, a bong, a freaking gas man. I don't know. Whatever's the issue. If you're gonna put that around me, you better hope they arrest you, because we're gonna figure that out. Because I've never ever put any of my fighters in a spot to disrespect them or to endanger them or to do anything like that. So if they're dumb enough to do that around me, I hope they've been working out, because we're gonna figure it out.
I got one more. What about people training high? How do you feel about that?
I'm against people training high. I'm against it because I don't think I've heard a lot of people say, especially in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community, that it helps them, helps them relax. Joe Rogan, right?
Your podcast guy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he thinks it's a performance enhancer. But I don't know enough about weed to really make that assumption. I wouldn't say that. What I would say is if you come to I've had people come to my class smelling like weed, and I've grabbed them after and I said, if you come to this class again high, we're gonna figure this out.
I want to tell a story real quick. This is like a story I want to tell to like all the guys that come to the gym high. This didn't happen in our gym. This happened in another gym I train at. I went there. This guy came in. He was all high. We were kickboxing, so he was doing like all kinds of funky stuff. He's like clapping his hands and spinning around. So I kicked him in the face and I broke his eye socket. And like it was because he's high. Like I train with him all the time. He's like getting goofy because he was high on weed. He thought he could do something he couldn't do. He's like trying to do spin and jump kicks. And I just kicked him in the face, and I broke his eye socket. It's not a performance enhancing for kickboxing for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to ask. Is Joe Rogan really thinks that weed is performance enhancing? Or?
Yeah,
Jiu-jitsu.
he does. Yeah, for jiu-jitsu.
jiu-jitsu.
He thinks for jiu-jitsu it does. Yeah, I've heard him say that.
It's-
And basically, what jiu-jitsu is, people maybe you don't know, or I mean, it's basically what you're doing is you're working technical submissions, ways to arm bar, arm lock, choke, sweep. Get on top of people, control people's body positioning, and his argument is that it allows you to relax and let those techniques kind of flow. And some of the best guys in the world, he says, smoke weed before.
That because I have been high, and I have smoked weed, and I'm going to tell you this: the only thing it enhances is my sitting on whatever comfortable apparatus that I'm on at that point in time. I'm not doing anything physical. I'm not doing anything to hurt anybody. I don't see any performance enhancing effects of that at all. And I know it's an individual thing, right? But here's what I'm saying. As we move forward, and I want to ask you guys this question: where do you see weed in 20 years? Because I see it legalized everywhere.
I think weed is safer than alcohol, to be honest with you. I think if alcohol is legal, marijuana should be legal.
So it's not going to be do you think it's going to be a performance enhancing drug at any point in time over the next 25 years?
Yeah, I performance enhancer.
Just for relaxing. I think relaxing is a big mental part of the game. If one person can and one can't, if you both can do it, I don't think it's any kind of performance enhancing.
This is just to kind of be clear. I am 100, and I think I was, but I'm 100% against these guys doing anything that's illegal. And even if it's legal to take one supplement, but illegal in the sport of MMA, like a USADA ban, like I'm against anyone not playing by the rules. This has nothing to do with what I think or don't think the rules should or shouldn't be. It has to specifically do with what they are.
Yeah.
So at the current time, in the moment, marijuana is illegal both in New York State to have recreationally. I don't think it's completely banned medically, but if it is legal medically, we're talking capsule form. We're not talking in the plant form.
THC is legal.
Right, the THC is legal, and we're also talking it being completely banned by every commission that I know of. So I don't give a shit what they think or what might want to do or what's bullshit and what this and that. I'm telling you, it's illegal, and you better not bring it around the gym or my fighters, and you better not be on it because you're just wasting your time. Now, to your question, if it evolves to something that becomes legal, then I think the commissions would have to handle it very similar to alcohol. You can't come to the fights drunk. You can't come to the fights high. I don't know what the cutoff is, if you can smoke it 6 days before, 7 days before. I don't know how that works, having it in your system. But you can't be under the influence of it. So once a medical ruling comes out that says 30 days prior you're free and clear from the effects of marijuana, then, or maybe it's 2 days or 2 minutes or 2 years, I don't know. I don't. But they have to be, it's about the effects of it. And I think marijuana can stay in your system and probably have an effect for hours, maybe a couple of days. People might not think it. I don't, but.
Well, you know what I love about what you're saying is it goes back to the argument of if it's legal, it's okay. If it's not okay. And I'm okay with that, right? Like, I'm okay with saying that if there's a substance that is illegal at the time, it should be banned, right? But
for sure,
yeah,
right.
But what you're saying, and going back to it, is one of the first things you said is, hey, if it's not allowed, it's not allowed.
55. That should be the slogan. We'll hang it everywhere we go. We got to drive 55.
Yeah,
I like that.
55.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, but like I said, it doesn't matter. And the thing is, when you get these young fighters, or it's the same thing in the NFL. These guys are right out of high school, but college. I mean, I'm talking as a military veteran. I'm talking as a cop. You guys are talking as older people with careers and families. Like, we all know sitting right here that no one gives a shit about how fair you think life should be.
Yeah.
Life is exactly as fair as you make it be. So no one cares. But this 22-year-old kid sitting here, or 20, not even probably 19, 20, some of our best talent, these young up and comers. members that are like, well, I don't think it's that big a deal. Well, guess what, dude? No one gives a fuck if you think it's a big deal or not, because you know who does? The promoter who's paying you to fight, or the coach who's investing your time in you, or the job that's going to drug test you before they hire you for a good career start. So they have to get through their heads at a young age that they have a tremendous opportunity, and they really have to embrace it and not be caught up into this. Like, no one gives a shit what you think.
I'm super excited about everything that's going on right now because I believe in everything that Erik is saying, and I think that if we looked at it and broke it down into its minute, simplest form, it basically says, if I pull you over for something, am I pulling you over for something that I'm gonna have to write you a ticket for? And I think sports is the exact same way, and that's where I'm looking at drugs and supplements and everything else. You can't. This guy is gonna pull. I agree. If you're smoking weed, Josh Gordon may never play in the NFL again. Too bad, because he was one of the most talented guys I've ever seen. But he's not going to play. He's not going to play in the NFL because of weed, right? Is it right? Maybe not. However, that's the time we live in. This is what we live in, right? So he's not going to play in the NFL because of the time we live in. But, Erik, being a police officer, when you say, hey, if you're taking no explode, he's not writing me a ticket. And this is what I'm talking about.
55. You got to drive 55.
But hear me out. Hear me out for a second. You can pull me over and you can put me in jail for weed. You can give me a ticket. If I've had 2 vodka drinks, you're gonna give me a ticket, right? I may blow over the limit. It's the same thing in sports, and I think that's where that's what we need to talk about. And I love what he's saying. Because if he pulls me over, and I have deer antler spray in my blood, he's not giving me a ticket. If I have no explode in my blood, he's not giving me a ticket. Right? It's available. It's right there. But if it's illegal, if I have weed in my blood, if I have beer, vodka, tequila, whatever it is in my blood, I'm getting a ticket. That's right.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But how can we sit here and say what's performance enhancing to a person or not under weed or alcohol or whatever? Alcohol makes people crazy, right? I mean, but bottom line is, here's the thing. He pulls me over. He can't pull me over for deer antler spray. Can't pull me over for no explode.
I guess it depends what you're doing with it, Chris.
But no, I know what you're saying. I mean, you're making like a rational thing. Like, it's not illegal in publicly and in society. So why is it illegal in like the sub society, the fight society, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's good arguments for that. For example, like Sudafed and sinus, and like I said, all these prescriptions and stuff like that. There's things that you can take as everyday Americans that fighters can't. But just one thing, because I don't want to forget. Who's the guy that you mentioned for weed? Was he a football?
Josh Gordon.
Oh, okay. I thought he was a golfer. Okay, Josh Gordon's his name.
Josh Gordon is going to be out of the NFL. Top receiver 3 years ago. Cannot make his way back in. He's checking into rehab for weed.
Well, see, now there you go. So at least so that's because, like, when I heard you say it, I'm thinking like it's unfortunate that in this day and age, one of the best receivers is it's maybe unfair, maybe stupid, but the real problem is like that guy needs help. That guy needs help because you have millions of dollars in a legendary legacy that you can't put down because of weed. Tell me that is any different than someone who's addicted to alcohol or addicted to gambling. Or if someone told me today, listen, you're gonna get fired from your job or fined heavily if you keep drinking coffee. Guess my first habit to kick.
You're gonna quit coffee.
I'm not addicted to anything. I mean, I might be addicted to goals and accomplishments, but there's no item that I'm so attached to other than my family members that I can't give up for my career.
Great. That's great. Yeah. That was great.
And
Good
it's
save.
just like, holy cow! If this guy, how many times you got to get in trouble before you wake up a little bit? You know, it doesn't.
It's a great save.
Why don't you give us a Fandoozy plug, and then we'll take a little break, and we'll come back with the merger and Cop Life.
Yeah. Caveman, you got some great stuff going on.
Fandoozy.com.
The greatest sports discussion platform in the world.
The only one with a caveman.
That's right. Caveman.
Remember, promo code Caveman saves you 50% off this great sports media site.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening to this podcast, because we have attacked multiple issues that cross all sports, and I'm not a fight guy, so you guys are fight guys, but I think that when I listen to you guys talk about what's going on in the world of fighting, it crosses every sport. And there's things that drive me crazy about every major sport, and it should be talked about. It should be fixed, and we're doing it right here. That's what Fandoozy is all about. All right, welcome back to Caveman's Corner.
All right, we're back. We're done talking about drugs for at least 5 minutes or so, and we're gonna get back to the merger between Victory MMA and Western New York MMA, the two biggest gyms in probably all of the New York area, besides for maybe Bomb Squad.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you talk about how difficult it is to fund a fight team as well? I know there was some financial trouble as well at Victory.
Yeah. So kind of picking up where we left off, we kind of left off where I was affiliated with Buffalo BJJ. A couple things happened all at the same time. It kind of was like a perfect storm of coincidence or circumstances, however you want to say it. A couple of them where I got offered the police job. Another one was our lease was going to be up at Sportsplex. Another one was actually our lease was already up at Sportsplex, and the new owner wanted to. Whatever, that's a whole nother topic. So we were contacted. I don't remember who contacted who first, but to Mike Dubb about who was an owner of Western New York MMA, our current gym, which is now merged. And what else was it? There's a few other things that were just all kind of happening at once.
The roof leaked.
Yeah, there's definitely problems with the building, but then there's also the fact that you just kind of get tired. You kind of just get tired of this like rivalry, and you're seeing all these guys, and everyone's like mutual friends in the fight community, and everybody kind of, and you're seeing it with the jiu-jitsu community right now. Everyone's splitting and opening up these other gyms. I've seen how this plays out. I know what's going to happen with a lot of these other jiu-jitsu gyms, and I don't even want to say other ones because we're included in that. It usually doesn't end the way it's not all rainbows and butterflies. There's some real cold, hard business stuff that happens that a fighter doesn't have to worry about. So it's easy to fighter to sit there and say, oh, my coach doesn't give me this attention. Well, you know what, dude? This coach, has bills to pay. He has a wife, he has kids. And he's got other fighters besides just you. And you get this utopia in your head, and you think it has to be this one way or another. And the reality is every second that I'm at the gym coaching these fighters, or going out of town with these fighters, or buying the products to wrap their hands, or paying for my commission license, or whatever the case is, every second I could be with my wife. I work a ton at my department. I work 50 hours plus a week. I was a high school wrestling coach for 7 years on top of everything that I'm doing here. This is going to actually my first season not doing it. I'm busy, man. I got a second grader. I try to work out and stay fit myself. I have a house I have to take care of, and it just becomes a lot. And what the fighters don't understand is they don't care. They just think, what about me? What about me? I have a short window. I want to be pro best I can ever be. What about me? What about me? When it's all said and done, every fighter that is that all about me attitude, they're going to look back and regret some of it. You do need to be selfish to some degree, but you also need to be a team player. And I truly believe that. Or you better hope you make millions in fighting. And because when that fighting career is over and you need to start integrating in the workforce, or having a family, or sharing parental responsibilities, or communicating with others and not having temper tantrums about how much attention you do or don't get, you're going to find yourself out on your ass. So anyway, that was just kind of a tangent. But that was another reason we decided to merge, right? Kind of bring this whole thing together, work as a team, and see what we can do. So we decided to leave the Victory gym bring the team, the fight team, the MMA team, Victory MMA fight team, and have that team housed at Western New York MMA. And we still kind of have that going on. Western New York MMA, home of the Victory fight team. It's kind of turning to just being Western New York MMA. It's been 3 years, and I'm totally okay with that. At first, I was like, no, we need to keep Victory because I created it.
And you got the tattoo.
And I got the tattoo. But actually, Thursday, I go to get a Western New York MMA tattoo. So
gotta drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you do. You have to drink the Kool-Aid, and you have. I mean, as long as it's worth drinking, right?
That's one of Eric's most famous lines. You gotta drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
it's like follow the program.
Yeah, you gotta buy in, man. You gotta be part of something bigger than yourself. I mean, at least to some degree. I mean, at least if you really want to get someone holds pads for Conor McGregor, someone teaches him jiu-jitsu, someone gives him a place to train. Like, there's things that go into this. You have to be able to work with others. You have to be a team player. You have to be able to share your toys. You know, you have to have these skills. And
on top of that, the guy holding pads for Conor McGregor is making a lot more money than you are for teaching all three disciplines.
I mean,
these guys.
And that's a great point because McGregor came from somewhere.
Yeah. He did, and his coaches got him there. He didn't wake up like that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Don't get me wrong; he's incredibly talented, and he wins those fights in the cage. And when fight night comes, you're by yourself. But listen, I've been there, man. I've had 20, 30 fights between boxing, kickboxing, and MMA and pro MMA. I can tell you right now that I did not get there by myself. There's no way. I had a team behind me, sometimes good, sometimes bad, that contributed in one way or another. And when you find the right team, you can really push yourself to where you're athletically able to go, barring injuries or something like that. So the goal is to kind of make this national or world renowned fight team at Western New York MMA with everybody working together from these two rival gyms. It's happening a little slower than I thought it would, but it's not terribly slow. It's not like, oh my God, we're light years behind. I was hoping to get guys in the UFC or Bellator in the second year. We're in the third year and we're not quite there yet. So, but we've had guys try out for the Ultimate Fighter. We've had guys had Bellator opportunities and, things didn't work out. We've had, World Series of Fighting opportunities. We've done incredible things in the amateur ranks, all in a state that doesn't even let it happen until last month. Or 2 months ago, whatever it was. So we're doing the best we can, and I think we're doing more than any other gym in New York State. I mean, I don't have the stats. Maybe there's other gyms doing what we're doing too, but definitely in Buffalo, definitely within 100 miles of here, we're trying to lead the charge. And
how was bringing the two gyms together? Because think about it, you got guys that have actually fought each other on two cards where they've gone toe-to-toe for 15 minutes. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And not only that, you've been the enemy to each other for 3 years, because I remember at Buffalo BJJ, I was like, oh, man, I hate WNY. I hate Bubba. You just think, like, Bubba Norton was, like, the face of WNY MMA for a while. And we grow to hate him. Now I'm teammates with him, you know what I mean? And you see how they are as people, and we're all fighters, so we all get along, we're together. But how about guys that actually fought against each other? How much because I wasn't there at the very beginning of the merger because Erik left me out.
Well, no, there's some truth to that, but you were still there in the beginning. And so I guess, so how was it at the beginning? It was rough at the beginning. I still think some people don't handle it well now. I think it's mostly gone. But it's just, to me, it's childish. To me, it's childish and it's small-mindedness, because, I mean, I could give you 100 examples of quarterbacks who've played for one team and been sacked and knocked unconscious and then got traded and now are on that same team throwing the ball to the guy or what. And we could go on and on with this. I mean, the thing is you have to have a goal and a vision. And if your goal and your vision is to be the best MMA fighter in Buffalo, New York, all you got to do is be better than me, because statistically I was the best, and I'm just an average dude. If you want to set the bar that low, you can go ahead and do it. That is not where my bar is. My bar is to be world-ranked UFC-level fighters. And if you can't understand the advantage of having better coaches, a better facility now, we have a beautiful gym. It was better than both of our gyms before we merged, but now we have a bigger pool of fighters, more money, more memberships. If you can't get your head past the Western New York 716 issues, then I mean, your days are numbered anyway, because we're trying to get this thing past that. So if you don't have a big goal and a big vision, then you're probably, you need to start understanding what we're trying to do.
Do you think some of this mentality that we have as gyms? I mean, it's almost like a gang mentality. You sacrifice for the team, sacrifice for the team. our team's got to come first. You got to be that guy. You got to take one for the team, and then you merge these two teams together. Do you think?
Yeah.
Any of that has
Well,
to play with it?
I was the biggest cheerleader, if you will. I was the main about a month before we merged, I said to, it might have been more than that, but it was less than 2 months. I said to the team in the back after a fight, how we fought 2 other fighters and we lost. We lost to like Western New York MMA. We're 0-2 that night, and I brought them all in. And they were all like moping around because we were like 1-4 on the night, and we weren't used to losing. It was a really bad, night for the team. We didn't show up, and we were just been used to having so much success and smashing everybody and being so good that it was tough to swallow. And then we lost a couple of those fights that we lost to our rival. And I brought them all in the circle, and I just remember looking at them all. I'm like, they were all just like moping around like these little puppies, and I'm like, get your shit together. You guys didn't perform. I didn't perform. Bring it in, be here on Monday, and we're going to figure this shit out. And I looked at all of them right in the eye, and I said, we will never lose to that team again. And in that moment, I meant it. In that moment, I meant I was never going to ever lose to the Western New York MMA fighters again. And there's some guys that are still at the gym now that we've merged that remember me saying that. And so my point in saying that there is no bigger proponent of, because I do believe that rival, it was orchestrated too. I didn't really hate Mike Dub. I didn't really hate Corey Webster. They're phenomenal. They're really good businessmen and they're really good coaches. But they needed fuel. They needed something to look at in the mirror, except for a UFC poster. They needed something in front of them to make them come and train. So I picked a rival, and I said, these are the guys we're going to beat. They're good. And we're going to beat them. And we're going to beat them every time. And we're going to beat them at their own game. And this is how we're going to do it. And I tried to dangle a carrot in front of them to get them to perform. And usually it worked. But when you decide, oh, just kidding, we don't need to be mad at them anymore. Everyone's like, what the fuck? You told me I have to hate these guys. And you're never going to lose them again. And now they're my coach. And I'm like, and it was an adjustment for me too. It was. But it hasn't been weird for me in years. I mean, the first year was here and there. Dude, I am a Western New York. I love it, man. I mean, is it perfect? No. Is every day the most tropical paradise of coaching and training and facility? No. But
I do have to say the kids club is tropical paradise every day. I coach it, so you should come check it out. Another shameless caveman plug, Western New York MMA Kids Club. Come check us out.
Yeah, if you have kids, from 6, 7 to 12, 13. I mean, I'm a huge believer in martial arts and athletics. If for nothing else than just occupying time and building, leadership and teamwork and everything else. And Jeff does an amazing job with that. He's grown the kids program tremendously, and he's the head coach of it. And he's a rock star up there, and he does great with it.
So Erik, why would let's talk about a little bit about your top prospects coming out of the gym, and then why a coming up fighter should come to Western New York MMA and train.
Well, for talking about prospects, I believe in them all. I believe all of them. They always say, my old boxing coach used to say, your next world champion could walk at the door at any minute. So even if you're surrounded by 100 world champions, that next guy could come in at any minute. And you know what, man? When he's right, because that's happened to me. I thought I had such a good group, and then this guy just walks through the door, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's or girl is super talented, or they've came around slow and then clicked for them one day, and now they're on all cylinders, right? So some of the talent, it's hard for me. I don't want to name names, because if I name someone, I don't name all. I mean, we have like a 20-something person roster. I don't want to kind of cast, but just to cut it off at the pros, although we have a ton of up-and-coming amateurs, I can't name them all right now. Our pros, Pat Mix, Bubba Norton, Todd Liberati, all very promising talent that's on the way up. And
Jeff Denn's coming out of retirement.
And am I forgetting any of the pros? Holy cow! I don't want to not. I don't.
TJ Sumler.
TJ, yep. TJ's. Who else?
I don't know.
Is that it? So we have 4 or 5 pros, and I'm just gonna kind of, because like I said, there's probably 20 amateurs, and I don't want to, there's obviously really good amateurs that we're excited to turn pro in the next 6-7 months, and they could be. But the person coming through the door tomorrow might be my $1 million lottery ticket or best coaching prospect ever or whatever. So the pros are doing good. Bubba's 2-1 now. He could easily be 3-0. Todd's had a couple tough fights, but his last fight was winnable. His first one was tough, but it was still tough. Now Mix is 2-0. They're fighting good guys. They're fighting good competition, and that's just in the last 6 months. So we're on the right track with them.
Yeah, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Jump in, man.
Where do you see Western New York in the whole MMA scheme? And New York, I mean, we're the last state in the nation to make it legal. Where do you see us going?
Yeah, we're behind because of the politics.
We've
There's
had
no
some
doubt.
champs from New York, though.
We had that
UFC
chance. Yeah, absolutely. But we have Rashad Evans, the UFC champ. Chris Weidman was a UFC champ. Rashad was kind of in between. John Jones was a UFC champ. We've had top contenders, and Stipe Miocic was from Ohio, but he was kind of in a similar situation. Where do I see it going? I do truthfully see a UFC level fighter coming out of our gym very soon. We could already have him right now, and I think we probably do. I think we have a couple of them that could really be that caliber. But I think it's gonna start evolving because someone is gonna put on the shows. The UFC is gonna come. There is gonna be more appeal to it, and you're gonna see it start to be more involved in the national scene. I mean, everything that we've done has always been with the handicap of not being able to fight here in our own home state, and that's tough. That's tough for business. It's tough for advertising. It's tough for promoters.
Now it's different, right?
It's different. Yeah. It's supposed to be different. It hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen at MSG in the next 6 weeks or so with the McGregor fight, and then hopefully that's probably going to take another year for it to start to trickle down and people to start to understand, promoters to do shows in New York, and then they ask us, and then it limelights us, and and all this other stuff. So we got a ways to go. I do see us as being one of the top gyms in the country. I have a lot of reasons to believe that. I know what our guys do against other. One of the things is we've had to travel extensively to get our guys fights because it's illegal in New York. Mm-hmm. That being said, we often go out of town and fight the hometown favorite. And you're often fighting the best guy in Ohio. You're brought in to lose against their top guys, and we always do very well or beat them. So I know how we stack up against the Pennsylvania, the Ohio, the New Jersey, the Alabama, the California, the Maine state talent, and we are just as good, if we're better. But on our worst day, we're just as good. And so I know that once the light is shine on our gym, that we're gonna shine bright, and we're gonna take it to where it needs to go.
So a chance to give you a quick plug when all these other gyms are gonna open up once MMA is really going on here. Why should they come train at WNY MMA?
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't come and train at WNY MMA if you can't be a team player and you can't and you think you got all the answers. If you think you got all the answers, go train at wherever the hell, whatever mom pop store opens up, man. I mean, we do not have time. We're talking about fighters. We're not talking about our female self-defense or fitness or our kids program. And we have something for everybody. So we have hundreds of members. But if you're talking as a fighter, like someone who's watching it on TV and says, I'm going to take this to the top, you better come with an attitude, or with no attitude, because I don't have time for it, and neither does my fight team or the other coaches. You better come humbled, and you better be able to listen. You better come coachable. And if you do, what I will give to you is all the tools to be a high-level professional fighter. Now, does that make you champion of the world? I don't know. A lot of that comes down to God-given talent and other things that we've talked about, injuries, staying out of trouble, the right matchups, etc. But if you come to my gym, if you come to our gym, I will give you all the tools that you need to be a high-level professional athlete, and that I promise you. But you don't bring the bullshit in the door. You come focused, you come ready to go, and I'll take care of the rest.
All right.
I'm going to say this right now. The word that I pulled out of that is coachable. And you know what? I'm going to ask you, Erik, because I know what a great teacher you are. Everybody's raved about it. The one word out of there is coachable. And where do you see you're going to get somebody in there, but the bottom line is they got to be coachable. Bring it. Where do you see your team in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think there's definitely guys that we have right now that if they keep doing what they're doing and they just kind of buy in a little bit more, listen a little bit more, mature a little bit more, I think we have a significant number of high-level pro champion fighters, and some of them will be in Bellator or the UFC within the next couple of years.
There you go.
I got one last question about this from my wife on Fandoozy.com. With the gaining popularity of MMA, more and more people are aspiring to become pro fighters. Besides for the physical abilities that are required to become an MMA fighter, what other intangible qualities a person must possess to actually make it in MMA?
Yeah, I think we touched on some of them there. They have to be coachable. They have to be humble, and they have to be willing to work hard. There's going to be bad days. They're going to you got to be patient. You're going to have to cut weight. You're going to have to listen to your coach when you don't want to. Why do I have to learn how to fight southpaw if I've been fighting right-handed for so long and it works so good? Okay. Why do I have to learn Brazilian jiu-jitsu because all I do is take people down and TKO them? Okay. We don't need that. What we need is yes, coach, I want to be better. I'm glad that you want me to be better. Let's get better. So that's the coachable thing, probably the most. But they have to not just be coachable, they have to be disciplined, right? They can't do some of these things that we talked about with recreational or illegal drugs or supplementation. They can't get in trouble with cops and mistraining, and they can't, they have to lead a good, focused life outside of the gym if they really think they're going to have a shot at making it.
Awesome. I want to get into being a police officer a little bit too. I don't mean to quick keep changing the subject, but it's important to me. I got this. I want to address some social issues in the world. So, of course, I got to do a caveman questions first, so it'll be a little goofy at first. But what's the best way to get out of a speeding ticket?
Not speed in the first place. That'd be a good one.
I got hit at
Good
76
answer.
on the way over here last time, and they just let me go.
Really?
I was just nice to the guy.
76 and
70
55?
55, yeah.
Oh,
serious?
man, 21 over? I don't know. He's a nicer guy than me. I don't know.
For sure.
What was his badge number?
Yeah.
I'm not even saying what department he's from.
Yeah.
I learned that from Erik, not to say what department you're from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just kind of comes in, I'm just speaking for myself. I don't, my department is great. They're awesome. And I think they are a progressive department, and we are trying to see, with some of the changes in society and keep up with them. We use social media, some don't. It's a changeover. It's a unique time for police, and just in America, there's old school mentality, there's new school mentality, and then there's somewhere in between. But yeah, I mean, if you are, first off, don't speed. Second, for me personally, if someone did something wrong, just be accountable. Officer, I was speeding. Why were you doing that? You know what? I don't have a good reason. I'm late for work. I'm tired. I'm trying to get home to watch the game.
I said I had to do the Fandoozy podcast, and I was going around a truck.
Yeah. I was listening to the Fandoozy podcast, and I was so excited that I had to race home. 99.999% of the time, people know that they're doing something wrong. It's not like, oh, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to text on my phone, or I didn't know it wasn't a 76 and a 55, right? So people know, and if you can be accountable and you can have a rapport in that brief moment where, like, I can feel like you are learning your lesson and you're not going to do it, because that's all we want. Cops just want people to be safe. I don't want to write 50 people tickets and ruin their mornings, and a working mom, make her go to court. But I also don't want her to smash her car into someone because she's texting and driving, or he is, or whatever. So you have to be accountable, and you have to get your shit together. And sometimes it's not the biggest. People might not think it's a big deal. Your headlights out. Well, there's other times you're driving too fast in a school zone, and my kids go to school. You know what I mean? So I can't say you're always going to get out of a ticket, but I think personal accountability is probably your best bet.
Have you ever had a girl show you her boobs to get out of a ticket?
No, I have never had that. No. No.
You gotta work in a better area.
I know you've seen too much TV. That's never happened.
Although that would be a great story.
Yeah.
He's got to say that because he's married. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. No, I would tell her that'd be hilarious. Never happened though.
Okay. Recently, there's been a lot of hate against the police. Right around 9/11, man, there's never been a better time for police. I think people were really behind the police. We got past all the OJ trial, the LA cops being a little bit racist.
Yeah.
We had 9/11. Everyone was unified. Since 9/11, it's gotten worse and worse for police and public relations. What do you think has caused that, and what do you think a solution could be?
Well, I think the solution is me. I think the solution is you. I think the solution is, it's weird that I just said it, but it's personal accountability. I mean, I get really upset when people are on the internet, critiquing the officer and saying, listen, this is what I would do. Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? You have to, it's just there's just so many places to start. But at the end of the day, it starts with me. I'm in the fight. I'm the one going to work, and I can either help the movement of anti-police or help fight that anti-rhetoric, or I can hurt it by being a jerk to everyone I meet and thinking I'm, the toughest dude in the world. And that goes two ways. Sometimes, especially now, it's really hard to let your guard down as a cop. I come from martial arts where I have no ego. I can tell anybody, I messed up. If my chief says I messed something up, I'm going to walk in there and say, you know what, chief, I'll do better next time. There's no excuse for me. I don't have that. I don't have an ego. I'm not trying to hide some, frail feelings, but a lot of cops won't admit that. And it's not that they're bad. It's just that, holy cow, I mean, how can you blame them? I mean, cops are getting shot, bad things are happening, people are disrespecting and making the job harder and harder. It's very hard to admit when you're wrong as a police officer, because you're under such scrutiny. In the same sense, people need to understand that we are human. I mean, I went to Buff State. I went to I went to local high schools. I'm a Western New York guy. I served in the military. I came right home because I missed it. Although I don't watch football that much, I know what the Bills are. I know that I'm just a normal guy, and I'm trying to do a very abnormal job. So I think if we can kind of meet,
very noble job.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm not trying to say, I don't mean that as I am or whatever, but the position in itself is incredible. And I mean that. It's incredibly hard. It's incredibly taxing. It's incredibly gratifying. It's very high. It's very low. I've had super bad days where I'm like, man, you know what? I don't know about this anymore. And I have a great department, great support group, but I'm like, man, I just don't know if I want to spend the next 20 years of my life seeing this stuff. And then I've had days where I save a guy and, is in a car accident, and I'm right there helping the dude out or helping a kid or whatever, and I'm like, man, this is the best thing ever. I want to do this to the day I die. And it's like that. And then there's a lot of in between. So to answer your question, what can we do? We need to meet in the middle. And if you can't if you can't swallow your pride on either end to do that, then you're just going to keep going down the same road.
All right, I got a question here from someone we both know, Mustafa. So
okay.
You know how you guys go. He's for black rights and Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you about that in a minute, but he has a question right here. What have you done, or what would you have done, military police, if you experienced your fellow officers misusing their power or authority to position to abuse others? Pretty much he's asking, what would you do if you've seen someone abusing their power?
There's two. The very first thing that comes to my mind, and that is that they better not have put me in that spot, because that's what people don't talk about enough. A lot of times, not all the times, but in some of these questionable, if you will, and let me just, for the people listening, a lot of these situations that are being glorified, it's impossible for me to name every one that was good and bad right now. There are some bad ones. Let me just say that right away. There's some video that I've watched in the last year that I'm like, whoa, man, that did not sit well with me. I am not okay with what that officer did. But most of them are completely justified and completely okay. And people will still protest them, because what a person not in law enforcement thinks is okay and what law enforcement thinks is okay are two different things. And that's why we got to meet in the middle. We have to start bridging this gap and explaining to people why police do what they do. And then hopefully they look at it through a different lens, and then maybe police can have a different lens too, and maybe this thing can be resolved. When I hear, what if someone abused their power in front of me, the very first thing I think is that they better not put me in that spot, because they know me, and they should know that if they do that, they're, again, just like I say with the fighters, man, they're gonna have more problems than just what might come, because I'm gonna grab them up. I mean, I'm gonna snatch them up and say, dude, what the hell are you doing? I was put in a situation in the military, and guys in the military know this. basically, I had a guy who was one of the worst human beings I've ever met in my life, and I say that in all honesty. He was a terrible, terrible, terrible leader, terrible person, and I truly, truly, in my heart of hearts, believe he had an evil streak in him, just something very mentally not right with him, and I blew him in. I mean, he directly impacted mine and my other Marines' daily life to where the fact that we were miserable. And that guy got his rank taken away and he got kicked out. It wasn't me like complaining because I did too many push-ups. Like, no, dude, you want to go, I'll go. This guy was, it was racist at times. It was sexually inappropriate at times. It was abuse of power to the nth degree. And I wasn't going to stand for that. So if I saw someone abusing their power, and I'm assuming we're talking like we're thinking a cop is, hitting a handcuff. I don't even know, but I'm assuming if it's like something egregious, then well, no, man, we're gonna figure that out. I'm gonna pull him off and say, what are we doing, dude? Let's regroup here. Let's cool yourself down. And I mean, Jesus, if it was something so bad, the supervision's going to be involved, and they're going to ask me anyway. And I'm not losing my job because of someone else's mistake. So,
I just want to say a couple things real quick. Number one, that was awesome. I'm actually going to take the police side for a minute while you take the opposite of the police side, as crazy as that sounds. So a lot of times what happens is you're in one officer cars. So when you arrive on the scene, you don't exactly know what's going on in the scene. So when you watch this tape and you see all the other cops showing up, they obviously don't know what's going on in that call. What happens is they drive up and they see what's going on. So a lot of the stuff you see on tape, it's not always as bad as it looks for the other officers because they don't know what happened. They don't know. Obviously, the officer is going to say something bad happened, even if it didn't, if they're protecting themselves or they're a bad person. So, and that's not always like as big of a problem as people think. I do think a lot of officers I know, I probably train with like 15, 20 officers now, and I think every one of them is a moral person that would stand up for someone else's rights. But when you go on the scene, it's you against them. It's kind of like that gang mentality again because everyone wants to go home.
Right.
And even when that happens, if someday that officer might be the one at your back too. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I'm not sure I know what you meant when you said I had a negative police side, you had a pro police side. Well, like I said, I think that if I watch 100 police videos that happened this year, I think 94 of them, I don't know exactly the math, but the vast majority of them were completely legal and I will say completely justified. And I think I would do the same thing in a lot of these cases. Not every one, though. There are some ones that I've seen. I've seen the extended video. I've read the court reports, and that was a mistake. And it might be a mistake in a lot of different levels, but at the end of the day, it was a mistake. So that's all I meant by that. I'm as pro-police as you could get. And I always give a cop the benefit of the doubt because I do. And am I biased? Yes. Now, as a civilian or someone who's not a cop, are they going to get, and they don't like the police, they probably won't give the cop the benefit of the doubt. And that's fine. But there's only so much that I can do with that. I mean, I am biased because I am a cop. And I'm proud to be biased, and it's in me because I know that it comes from me being a cop and me loving and caring about the people that I work with. So your question was, what is it like to come to a scene in the aftermath kind of type? Or?
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, like, when you arrive on a scene, you don't know exactly what's happening. If you see someone, like, restraining a suspect or they're being physically maybe a little bit more than they need to be, you don't exactly know what happened in the situation. You don't know if that person's armed. Because a lot of stuff I hear, we sit down, we watch these YouTube videos of this stuff at work, and the guy's like, why aren't all the other cops doing anything? I'm like, they just arrived on the scene. They don't know what's going on. They need to assess the situation, stuff like that. And at the same time, if the guy's a little bit rough, but he's apprehending the suspect, someday that guy might have to watch your back when you're apprehending a suspect. Make sure someone's not come in and smack you in the back of the head, or someone from the crowd's not going to kick you. So you need to look out for each other a little bit too.
Yeah, I've had people resist arrest, and there's like 3 of us wrestling them, and I've just let go. And I just have protected the crowd because there's a crowd. I mean, we have a bar district, and all cities do. I mean, every city has a couple bars or high school fights or sporting events or whatever, you know what I mean? So, I've just sat there and made sure they were safe because I believe and I trust that they can handle the physical side of what they're encountering. And if I didn't think that, then I would be the first one in there putting myself on the line, probably even before them, because I think that with the background that I have, I think it's expected a little bit that I'm going to be able to figure these physical situations out, maybe more so than others, whether that's right or wrong. So no, that's very true. Sometimes it's best to sit back, let the two guys you're with or one guy you're with handle it, and you do crowd control and make sure that guy's safe. Yeah.
Can you kind of walk us through, like I know you have procedures that you're supposed to follow for before you become physical in altercation, like when it's okay to touch someone, when it's okay to restrain them, when it's okay to spray them, when it's all right to use force.
So what you're talking about is the escalation of force, and this
Correct.
is what I wish people were educated about. This is not some secret that's locked in a vault. A simple Google search will show you almost any departments. Every department that I've ever seen has a similar use of force, give or take a 10% variance. But basically, deadly force, which is everything that's coming out now, is a force that a person uses with the purpose of causing death or serious bodily harm, which a reasonable or prudent person will consider likely to create a substantial risk of causing death or serious bodily harm. So you're doing that to stop that, right? Like if I'm perceiving myself as in a situation where I'm going to die or get seriously mangled, I am justified to use my means, whatever means necessary, to stop that. And that goes down to now I'm working down the continuum. Now you're going to other weapons, other tools, other tactics, such as a taser. Not every department in the country has tasers. I am not a fan of a taser, personally. And I carry one. I whatever. But that's tough, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, you mess with a taser, what? Because these things aren't like, they don't have like they're not heat sinking missiles. You miss, and there's two probes that have to connect, so you really have to hit them in two spots. And there's a variance in where these darts travel that provide that electricity. It is not easy to do it. And then it would go to OC, which is a we'll say it's mace. Good tool, incapacitates people. If they can't see, then they can't fight, right? It's kind of that mentality. But you cannot OC someone without OCing yourself. I can't spray you. If I spray you, he's going to get it, and it's in the air, and I'm breathing it, and I touch you, and now it touches me, and it gets everywhere. If you OC someone, you spray someone with mace, you're probably going to likely feel the effects of it too. And then you have your baton, which is a metal rod to get people to comply. You're hitting people with a baton, and I'm sure you can find good and bad examples of that throughout police history. And then you go to your open hand tactics, your tactics of controlling people, whether it be punches, kicks, tackles, restraints, risk here, escort positions, pressure points, or just hey man, let's talk, let's verbally communicate. Which is, I went from the top down. I should have went from the bottom up. I don't know why I did. Just probably because I feel like the top is the scrutiny nowadays. But everything starts with a conversation. It doesn't have to start there. If someone has a gun pointed at me, I don't start with, hey, let's talk about this. Hey, my OC didn't work. Hey, my baton didn't work. Hey, my taser didn't work. Hey, my wrestling didn't work. Hey, and now pull out my gun. I mean, that level of force varies with your threat. And that's what, as a human, I'm trying to interpretate in seconds, We
talked about this one time. Can you... That time you went to a shooting, or you were like scared, remember? I don't remember exactly what happened. We were talking about it, and you were like scared to death, and it was like the first time you went to a call, like one of the first days you were on duty.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. So without giving away too much, people's privacy and rights are important, and as I go around in law enforcement, people can hear something and internalize it. Oh, maybe he's talking about me. Maybe he's talking about someone that I knew that fits. So. I don't want to give away too many details for, really just the respect of people involved. But,
I just meant the feeling that you were experiencing, because I think that'll tell a lot. I mean, because you're a big MMA fighter, just for them to hear that's the way you told me that story, like it was impactful.
I'm just kind of trying to think, because unfortunately we've had a lot of those. But I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, but yeah, I mean, when you first get a call and there's someone with a gun, I mean, I don't know what, like, it's not like the movies, like, oh, you turn the lights on, you freaking get your, and just go at 100 miles an hour. No, man, you think gun? Well, what do you mean he's got it? Gun? Like, okay. And then you're just like, what do I? Well, I have a gun too, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to be okay if I get there because I have this training, and you're trying to convince yourself that it's going to be okay. Why subconsciously you're turning on the lights and you're putting it in drive, and I mean, you don't really know what you're doing. You're trying to mentally put yourself in a situation to survive if you need it, and it's fucking terrifying. I mean, I've been in tight situations, and I don't need anybody to, I know what I've done and what's happened to me in my life. And I'm telling you right now, I don't care how tough you are, when someone says this bad guy has a weapon, go figure it out, you're nervous. You're nervous. And I don't care if you're a Navy SEAL who's done it 1,000 times, if you're me who's done it a couple, you are nervous. And if you're not, then man, more power to you, because I'm a good fighter. But I don't know any moves to dodge bullets. I don't know what those moves are.
It's on a Matrix, dude. You just gotta watch it.
Yeah, just watch Keanu Reeves. But I don't. So I'm just as that my training has nothing to do from a fighter's standpoint when someone's got a gun or a knife or AIDS or hepatitis or syringes or vehicles that are out of control. I mean, these things are not. These things are not something that my fighting or Marine Corps background really has much help with, other than the presence of mind to be in tight situations, which has helped me out tremendously. But yeah, I mean, there's no cheat code just because I was in the Marine Corps, you know what I mean?
Do you think it gives you more advantage to some of the cops that we've seen? Because remember that 14-year-old that got shot? He had the BB gun.
Yeah,
I mean,
in Ohio.
Yeah, like how when you respond to that call, I mean, you see a gun. What's your first thought? I mean, aren't you? I know I would want to go home if I was a cop.
Yeah.
I think I would do the same thing, honestly.
I think that situation in particular is tragic, and that needs to be said first. And there's going to be some people who hear me say this and they understand. There's going to be some people who hear me say this and they think I'm some whatever. But there was nothing wrong with what he did, given the situation that he put himself in. I would have liked, and I'm not even going to armchair the guy, because I know that guy did not wake up like, yep, can't wait to shoot someone today, can't wait to shoot a third time. I mean, dude, it's heartbreaking. I don't even just saying it right now just makes me uncomfortable. Like, There's nothing about that situation on any level of anyone's spectrum that made that okay. But unfortunately, you had a young kid who had a very realistic looking gun, and the officer chose to pull right up onto him instead of maybe being back a little bit more. And he's, from the video that I've seen, although it be grainy, and from the testimony that I've read, he felt threatened, and he pulled that gun out, and he shot him, and that kid subsequently died from it. And I don't know if I would have done that. I don't know if I would not have. I don't know. I don't want to judge him. I know it sucks. I know it sucks to be that cop. I know it sucks to be that kid's parents. And I know there's a lot of issues to that. But, I mean, you're trying to stop, and this is a bad analogy in some ways, and I use it a lot in life. You're trying to stop the football team from scoring when they're on the 1 yard line. You're trying to tell, here's your defense, go get in the end, don't let them in the end zone. Dude, you are in desperation mode. Like, when that kid has a gun or a perceived gun and you drive right up on him, you're on the 1 yard line. You're making a split-second decision that's either, life or death in that case.
Here we go.
I couldn't agree more. And if it's negative and like people are attacking you in any sort of way, you got to react the way you react, right?
Yeah, and the car, if that was a real gun and an 18-year-old that has shot someone before, I don't know. Criminal records don't always matter in these cases, but they do matter to some extent sometimes. Like, for example, if you know this guy is violent with police and you've arrested him before for having a gun and resisting arrest with police, his criminal record matters at that point. Because if you know he has a tendency to try to hurt cops or whatever, then you're obviously going to react differently to someone who doesn't. But it's just a shitty spot, and it's really bad. And like I said, I'm not trying to belittle anything, the gravity of it by using some type of NFL analogy. But there's so much that went wrong before that kid was shot that it's like you're trying to fix it before you can't. Yeah. You got to go back and look at the whole thing. Why does that kid have a gun? A fake gun? Yeah. Why does that kid have the orange tip off the gun? Why do we even sell those things in this country? Holy shit. Those things, anybody can buy them. They look so freaking real. And those things
And
blow
why do
my
your parents?
mind.
Why do your parents give it
Totally.
to them? Right.
And then on the same side, to be fair, even though I completely support that guy in that moment, maybe you shouldn't have pulled right up to him. Maybe you should have been further back, right? And I don't know what the answer is. So like I said, I'm not even gonna, if I met that guy, I hope I'd have the courage to say that to his face, maybe. And I hopefully if I met the parents, I could say that to their face too, because these are just real questions that you have to ask yourself.
As a department, do you review like situations like that have been going around all around the world and discuss what your precinct's policies are?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for every department. I work with a lot of different departments that are in the area. Yeah, we talk about stuff all the time, man. We do. I start the conversation a lot. I do, because I don't know if there's great answers to all of it, and I don't like the guy, police, not police, who says, "Oh, this is what they should have done." Dude, let's just take a step back here. You don't know what he was thinking at the moment. Like you said about the cameras, they catch very subjective or very convenient things. You don't know about what the dispatch said in his ear. Like, for example, people have said they know that was a fake gun. Well, the dispatch that I heard and the records that I read from it, those officers never hear could be fake gun. And that's court documents. So people say, oh, it was a fake gun. They didn't know that. And that gun looks more real than my gun. So, like, what are we talking here? You want them to be fortune tellers, too, on top of...
I think they're saying blue lives don't matter. Sometimes some of them.
Well, we're saying what's
blue
up?
lives don't matter. Cop lives.
Oh man, the stuff that I've heard at work, it's insane. If I would have known 4 years ago that people were going to talk to me the way they talk to me now, I would have slapped myself. And there's just no way.
It's really crazy because I applied to Police Academy and I went through most of the training and I failed the last psych exam because I'm crazy, and Erik busted a mic again.
Sorry.
2 in a row. So I mean, I know it takes a special person to actually even just get in the academy. So Erik got in the academy, and it's a very selective process, and they take a lot of time and effort to do it. They said I was too crazy, so they're pretty smart.
I think you would have been good at it, Jeff. I do.
I want to talk a little bit about like MMA and jiu-jitsu training in the police force. I think that could reduce some of the problems that they have in the physical violence department. I know you brought in some guys that we've actually worked out with that are in the force that honestly weren't too great at fighters, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the training needs to be a little bit better as well. Can you discuss what kind of training you got, and then how you supplement some of the other officers' training?
Yeah. Man, this is a tough one, because you don't want to make it sound like police aren't trained, because that's not the case. We are trained. We are trained, and when I say trained, I mean specifically in hand-to-hand is what I'm saying, not like, traffic stops and weapon retention. I'm talking about like hand-to-hand situations. We as fighters have a unrealistic expectation, because like I'm a professional fighter and I am a police officer. That does not mean that every cop that I work with is going to have 10 years of martial arts experience. And even if they did, I mean, you could do karate for 10 years and be whatever. I mean, Jeff, we wrestle collegiately. We go against high-level black belts. We have striking that is, very good. We, our team and where we come from is not like anything that you can hold the police accountable for. You can't say, if you're going to be a cop, you also need to be a 5-2 pro fighter that's have UFC experience. I mean, it's unrealistic for me to take my experiences and try to make the police meet that. That being said, police need to be trained at a much higher and much more updated physical compliance level. We have hundreds of members at our gym. These guys know jiu-jitsu. These guys know striking. These guys know whatever. And hopefully they're martial artists and they buy into it and they're not out there being knuckleheads. But let's say they train with us for a month and then they quit. And then that guy gets in a domestic and a cop shows up to his house and he doesn't want to go to jail. Well, that guy knows a month more of MMA than that cop knows, and that puts a lot of this is tough. And MMA is a growing sport. You are seeing more and more MMA fighters be arrested, and you're seeing more and more people know just enough to be dangerous to a police officer. So I think that as a nation, you need to tap into the Muay Thai and the Western boxing and the collegiate wrestling, which the country has a huge advantage of as Americans. We have some of the best wrestlers in the world, and the jiu-jitsu and all these other tactics that are out there that blend them, like, handcuffing and all these other things. And we need to update what these officers are doing, and we need to hold these guys accountable. I mean, the days of the overweight, like, people still make the donut joke to me. First off, I've never ate a donut in my uniform, and I probably ate one donut this year. Like, a lot of us cops, that stereotype is old, man. Like, we care. We know, not every cop, but a lot of cops know that we need to be in shape or we could die.
Do you have physical fitness requirements as a department?
Mine does not, but I know some that do. But I have never seen my department my department has let me be involved in police training as far as what's being taught at the academies, and they've let me show other curriculum and stuff that we do at our gym. I've brought the guys in. I brought the cops in. I mean, cops want to learn. I mean, these cops aren't like fat eating donuts and just like, trying to shoot people. Like it's crazy. If people really knew what, and I can only speak to me and my department and the ones I've been involved to, but just to wrap up here, it's not what, I don't know what people are thinking, but dude, we care. We want to be in shape. We want to, this job is stressful. If you're not in shape, you're going to die quick. Heart attack, stress, we want to perform, but sometimes there's a little bit of a breakdown.
I guess what I was suggesting is maybe we as a people can pay more to the police department for continuing physical training. You know what I mean? Like, cops should be able to get all the training they need to resolve these situations, or it's going to happen over and over again, I think.
Well, I think what needs to be happen is, first it needs to be available to them. Like right now, there's really nobody, and I guess if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So I need to be involved in this, but you need to offer it. Someone needs to go, someone like me, honestly, to put myself under the bus. I need to go to my department or these other departments and say, listen, this is my record, this is who I am. I think there's a gap in society and police societal situations with, and current police training. I'll teach this for free or for $1 or whatever. Can you have guys sign up? Because there is a lot of good police training out there on a lot of topics, but there's a lot of police topics. There's a lot of law updates, legal updates, traffic things. There's a lot of things that police are going to in training. Unfortunately, physical fitness and physical defense, the hand-to-hand stuff is not something departments invest a lot in. Mostly probably because of injury. Because they don't want cops to get hurt. They're 50 years old. This guy's rolling around on the mat. Could be problematic. Me, I don't buy that because I know that we have 55-year-old guys on our jiu-jitsu mats and they're studs.
Or older. Schuster.
Or older Schuster, right. So I do think you're right. I think it needs to be made available to the police, and I think it needs to be taken advantage of by the police. So I think it's both a community and a police thing. Again, it's meeting in the middle. So, yeah, and I should be doing that. I've done that. Maybe I haven't done it enough. I've done it a little bit, but I'll put myself out there and call myself out. I can do better, and I'll try.
I think it needs to be a nationwide program. Maybe something. Each department has different rules, so you're gonna have to figure out what's acceptable and what's not. I mean, like the state troopers, like Joe I, do all that jiu-jitsu training together, and I think that should be implemented all over. And it's just something that needs to happen. What about body cameras?
I don't know anything other than body cameras. They had them when I got hired. And I've always had one, so a body camera is fine. Game on. It is a double-edged sword. Everyone who's like, these cops need to wear body cameras. Okay, well, when I pull you over and I want to give you a break and you're on camera and you're like, come on, can't I just give me a break? I was only going 15 over. Well, you just, what? I mean, you're on camera.
You just admitted to.
You just admitted to. I mean, you're putting me in. I pulled you over. This is videotaped. I pulled you over. Like, the word that society is missing is discretion. Police have discretion in how they can handle any of these situations, and that's where a lot of the resentment comes in too. It's like, cops can do what they want. Yeah, they can also let you out of tickets. They can also give you a ride when your car breaks down. Like there's things that they want police to do, but they also don't want police to do. It doesn't work that way. You don't make that's not how this works. You have to you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want everything a cop does to be videotaped at all day, all times, well, that's fine. But when you want every video to be released, I can tell you what, if police videos were released and people saw what I go through, and I don't want to say I, because I just mean police, because everyone has it just whatever. If people saw the way people talk to us and what we see and do, there's not one freaking protester that would be in that street. Because for every one bad cop who made a bad decision and who did, there would be millions, and I mean millions, of video backing up the terrible treatment, the talking to, the attitude, the dangerous situation, the deplorable conditions. There would be, who do you think the police deal with? The millionaires of society? No. We deal with the poorest of the poor, the troubled, the crime-ridden, the economically unstable, the criminal records. This is not rainbows and butterflies for us, man. We are figuring this out at the bottom level. And if people saw that video, I think a lot of people would, maybe choose their words a little wiser.
I actually think that's the $1 million video right there. Release the videos of what you guys do on a daily basis, right?
Yeah,
and it might because I totally agree with you.
Invasion of privacy. That's
the thing.
Like, sue you.
Exactly. Well, do they want to? Perfect example. You go to a domestic situation. The wife is screaming at the top of her lungs, completely out of control, and the guy is this and that. They're just is gentleman and ladylike as can be, and now we throw that out there, right? Now now you're ruining their reputation. Now they feel like idiots to save our skin, and that's the thing. We're supposed to be protecting the people, serving and protecting. So unfortunately, our reputation and our emotions, feelings, whatever you want to say, it takes the back seat because we're here to protect and serve them. So I'll save your reputation. Don't worry. I know how you treated me that night, but I'll smile and go on my merry way and just take it on the chin, and that's hard for me, man. That's hard for all cops, and that's why, especially in some of these bad areas and throughout the country, you have police, dude, it's some of it's a mess, and I don't know if you can fix it overnight, but I do know that the community and the police need to come together, and there needs to be some type of rapport building and information sharing that can kind of help mend some of this.
All right, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. Do you hate black people?
Oh my God. No, I don't. And that is
yellow people?
And no. And if I didn't know you so well, I'd punch you for that. It's like I don't even feel the need to justify why that is incredible to me, but I have very good friends of all different races. I know that's a topic, for you that is important. I have half the freaking fight team I coach is black. Jesus Christ.
I got a serious question for you besides for the joke one. Do you think we do have a ton of young black athletes, Solomon Renfro, Pat Mix, there's a laundry list of guys. Do you think any of them treat you a little bit different because you are a cop?
I hope they do. I hope they don't. I hope they hold themselves to a higher standard around me. I hope they don't treat me like Joe Schmo. I hope they treat me like, one, because I'm a coach, one, because I try to carry myself that way, but I hope they I'm not gonna act like an idiot around him. I'm gonna act respectable, and I'm gonna tuck my shirt in if he's not really, but I hope that they put their best foot forward around me, and I hope that they do that in society too.
Do you think that they have trouble relating with you as a coach? Do you think these two things interfere with each other?
Yes, I do. I've seen it. I think people know enough not to do some of the stuff that they might want to do around me, so they just avoid me, which is fine, because if you can't be mature enough...
I don't mean like breaking the law. I just mean that there's a great racial divide in the country between black Americans and the police right now, and that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah,
as opposed to like...
Well, you're saying because
they're black athletes.
They're black athletes, and I'm a white cop. Yeah, Jesus, man. If I haven't done enough to show them that doesn't matter, then we got more work to do. Because who the fuck cares?
Do you think it affects you as a coach though?
It's never affected me. I've never looked at them and said, I don't even know how to. Jesus Christ, I take a bullet for half these kids.
I know, I'm not saying it as you personally, but do you think there's a young, great black athlete that hates police? Do you think he's going to come to our gym? That's kind of what I'm talking about.
I see what you're saying. There's no doubt.
I'm sure all the guys that we train with know, because when you're working with someone day to day, you can see what kind of person they are, and you're definitely not a racist yourself. But I'm saying from the outside looking in.
Yeah, I think there is definitely that stereotype out there, and I know that because I know people that tell me that. I see, so I'm not blind. I see social media. I know what they put out there. I know what's going on out there. I know I know how people talk to me in the street. I've had people say the most freaking crazy things to me that I just it just blows my mind. So to answer your question, I do know the opinion that is out there. I do know that there is a untrue, racially fueled negative opinion on cops. And
have you ever experienced a racist officer?
I have never worked with a cop or seen a cop in the neighboring departments, because I go to schools and I'm around a lot of the cops. I have never seen one cop be racist, misuse his power, illegally arrest someone, rough someone up, like all these things. Like, I've never seen it in 4 years.
Do you think it exists?
I naively would like to think it does not exist at my department. That's what I'll say. And I will absolutely tell you that it does not exist, and I have not seen it.
I can tell you off the air. I'll tell you which cop it is, but I know that there are racist cops out there, and I've seen and experienced it.
Yeah,
myself.
I mean, over the years, there are historical examples that
I'm talking about currently, not like historically, but
yeah, I mean, it sucks, and it's like it's like the same thing with racist people. If you are a racist cop, then you better find a new job, because we're not going to stand for that. We don't need that. You think we need that with the way the drugs and the gangs and the guns and the heroin and the car crashes and the DW? You think I need some racist idiot next to me? I don't see it, and I'm not. I'm not going to. I believe you. If that was your experience, I believe it. But they need to find somewhere else to go, because law enforcement doesn't have time for that. I mean, we got shit to do, and we don't have time for some idiot old school mentality. It has no place in society today.
What do you think about the Black Lives Matter movement?
I mean, I don't think highly of it. I think I don't think good of it at all. I mean, and I don't think that there is a. I mean, I don't know what you want me to say, Jeff. I mean, I don't think much of it. I mean, it's hard to say, man. I consider myself, a professional. I know I'm not here as an officer right now. I'm just here as myself. But it's very tough to see the rioting, and it's very tough to see the police who are shot in retaliation to justified use of force. It's very, very tough to see some of the things that group is doing and is doing to my brothers and sisters in the name of quote unquote justice of people who were legally handled by police. So I don't have many positive things to say. That's what I'll leave it as. Well,
I'd like to say the history of policing has been kind of racist as it's evolved. As a whole country is racist. As we started out, we had segregation, and now we're moving along, and the departments are becoming more and more regulated, and it doesn't happen overnight, and these feelings have been built up over generations. So you have this generational gap where you have the anger that's come down from year after year, because your parents tell you cops suck, so you believe cops suck.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to fight. And I kind of want to get on here and just talk on a podcast, because I want to fix some of these problems. I think what you're doing is outstanding. I've seen you work with criminal black athletes and train them to be better fighters. They come into the gym, and if anyone's going to be racist, no offense, it would be a white cop. And here we have Erik Herbert working with guys that he knows are criminals, and he's helping them, and he does whatever he needs to do to make their lives better, or get them a fight, or help them along. And I mean, we can go through example after example we're not going to say names and go through criminal history, but I've seen you do it, and I've seen you do it over and over and over again. And I think we need to, as a people, just make it work. MMA is like a great melting pot. We have every kind of race, every kind of religion. We all get in there, and we can all work together because we have common goals. And I think we just need to leave all the hate behind and get it moving around. But we need to find some way to do that, and that's kind of where you are right now. And what can we do? What kind is community policing the answer? How do we change this gap?
Well, I mean, I think it's situational for each community and county and city. I mean, for example, the tactics in Chicago are not going to work in X city, Western New York or wherever. It is situational. And it depends on the needs of the community. I mean, it's like, where I work, I mean, the community is very different than Chicago or downtown LA and things like that. So it's a personal thing. It is. It's personal. It has to be specific. It's not like I can go out there and we can just give everyone some magic answer and every police officer starts doing it tomorrow. And it's no. And you're right. I mean, if you historically look at the way this country was built, it's not pretty, man. It's not pretty. It's disgusting. There's been a lot of, and I'm as American as it can be, man. I mean, I did everything. I got an American flag on my arm right now. I love this country more than anything, and I do. And I unapologetically love America. I love the idea of it, and I love what it stands for, because I know on its worst day, and I've been a lot of places, I know on America's worst day, it's still 10 times better than the next nearest country. And if they want to come on, if somebody wants to debate me on it and fact check a Google, whatever, dude, I've been there. I don't care about your articles. I don't care about your biased reporting. I have been there. I have been to 15 different countries. I've seen the bad stuff. I've been to 38 different states, and I've done it in police fashion, and I know what these. I know, man. I'm in the fight. I'm not on the bench reading Google, sharing CNN tweets on my Facebook feed, dude. I'm in the fight. You know what I mean? I don't need someone to tell me what they read, because I'm what they're reading about. I mean, we're the ones in there, and so is the other side, to be fair. So what can we do? We have to look at it situationally. We have to look at it community-based, and we have to meet in the middle, like we said, on some issues. And I don't think town halls are a bad idea, and I don't think I don't think social media is helping. That's for sure. I mean, some people are saying it's helping because it's bringing to light different things, but then you have all these uneducated people drawing conclusions and opinions on things. The things that people write, it blows my mind. I'm like, this isn't even true. No police officer in the world thinks this. You guys, it's wrong. So social media is helping and it's hurting. But I think community involvement and community relations is probably your cliche answer to that. But you do have to look at it situationally.
I saw a meme and it kind of like hits the point like perfectly. It was like a Muslim guy, and it says, if one of me is you're scared of me because I'm a terrorist, why shouldn't all the black people be scared of the one bad cop? And I think it's racial on both sides, and that's something we need to get past on both sides, because the racial divide works both ways, and I think we just need to come together as a people. I'm not saying that that's right. I'm actually saying that's completely wrong.
Right.
And we shouldn't be racist towards Muslims, because I know great Muslims.
Sure. Like
Mustafa, and actually I sat down with Mustafa and we talked about 6 hours before I brought you in here, and I wanted to bring up some of the stuff that he talked about, some of the problems that he runs into.
Yeah.
And I think you guys should get together and wrap it up, man. That would be a great podcast.
Well, I don't know honestly much. I can't say I'm not. I would say that I'm not friends with him. I know him. He's a figure in the wrestling community, and he has more than that, grappling, jiu-jitsu community. But I haven't heard nothing but great things about him. And we have guys at our gym that are Muslim. I just drove 12 hours to Chicago to compete in a national or in this huge jiu-jitsu tournament with a Muslim kid, and I talked to him the whole time about just blowing my mind, some of his insight.
Learn a lot about Sharia law.
And hopefully he learned some stuff from me, because he has asking me questions, and you're right, and I think that comes from getting together. Dude, I am too old. I got too much going on in my life, and to give a damn about race. It doesn't even. Nobody has time for that. Unfortunately, there are a lot of stereotypes. There are a lot of wounds, I guess you'd say. But eventually, you got to put that stuff behind you, and you got to let it heal. Yes, there was slavery. Yes, there was injustice of women and gay rights, and there's so many things that we could talk about that this country got really wrong. But it's still the best place to live in the world, in my opinion. And eventually you got to let that stuff heal, because if you keep picking at the scab, it's going to keep bleeding. I know it's a terrible thing. I know it hits and affects other people more than others, but you have to get by these injuries if you're going to move forward. And if you keep dragging them up and you keep bringing them up and you keep referencing all these things, you have to move forward. And progress comes from learning from the past, not living in it. So until we can do that, I mean, that's another thing that's holding it back.
I sat down with Mustafa and we talked about what can we change, and we're like, we can't change anything, but what we can change is how we interact with people. Like the interactions that you have are going to change people. The interactions I have with Mustafa are going to change people, and I think that's what we need to do. I'm going to let Chris talk now because I'm not sure he can air any of this on Fandoozy. He's like, this is too racial for me.
No, I think we should. Honestly, I think this is an enormous topic. I think we should, and I think that. I think race right now is an excuse. I think it's an excuse to be belligerent, right? I mean, we're talking about not every one of us goes through our daily lives. I work with developers and I work with tech guys, right? And we work with every Silicon Valley guy. We work with tech guys from around the world. Right, so you guys are fighting guys around the world. Every sport has people from around the world, right? I think when you break it down, and you say people are being treated unfairly or whatever it may be, I think somehow the people that are bringing that out they have too much time to. They have too much time to not, to bring that to light. Do I make sense? Like
sitting around thinking about it instead of
they're sitting around thinking about it instead of actually living their lives, right? Yeah. Like you guys aren't sitting there thinking about like, oh well, I have to fight somebody or I have to train somebody that is from a different culture. You don't think about it. I don't think about it when I'm looking for a tech developer, right? I think like, oh, well, geez, you're Indian? That's great, right? Like, I know Oracle. I know whatever it is. Like, that's my world. I'm like, man, that's awesome. So I think, like, we've lost self-responsibility. We've lost accountability. And we've lost the fact that everybody moves forward regardless of who's around them. You embrace it. If we all just embraced the fact that we're all moving forward and they're all human beings, it'd be a much better place to live, right? I mean,
I agree.
I mean, they talk all the time. I mean, gets a little deep, but I mean, I love that picture where it says like Asian, black, white, and it just goes through like all the races, and it's just a picture of them, and then it's like, but they're all skeletons that look exactly the same. And that's really what it is, man. I mean, I know it can be cheesy, and there's people who might hear that and be like, what is this guy? But honestly, at the end of the day, man, like I just think it's just some level, man. If you are really racist, then you need to find somewhere else to be, because it's not going to be around me. It's not going to be around my group of friends. I mean, I just don't even interact with people at that level. But at the same side, the same side of that, if you like really hate police and really think they're all like murderer, pig, donut eaters, you don't need to be around me either, because that's just as stupid as the first statement.
Well, don't you think the true definition of racist is the person that forgets that you don't attack a cop, that you don't like, oh hey, I did something wrong, but I should be relieved of that, right? Like, I look at Michael Brown and all the things that came out. I mean, I never grew up. My parents never told me it was okay to resist arrest, to resist a cop, to resist, like, it wasn't black, it wasn't white, it wasn't Muslim. You just don't do certain things. And I think that's what we've lost, is that general thought of, hey, if you're doing something wrong, you don't attack a cop. You don't, right? You're not trying to.
I mean, it would be, if you could find proof to any of these police shootings that are going on, if you could find me proof that any of these cops are racist, like they live racist lifestyles, and that they really don't they really believe this. Some of these cops that are involved in the shooting are black themselves, and now people are saying they're not black enough. And Jesus Christ, like, nobody thinks this way. Nobody has time for this.
Black enough.
I would like to say one thing real quick. I think there's a difference between racism and prejudice as well.
Well, there is, yeah.
Because,
textbook, yeah.
I mean,
it's very similar.
As a police, I think at times you need to be prejudiced. If you see some guy that looks like a drug dealer walking around in a neighborhood that's known for selling drugs, you're going to suspect him, whether he's black, white, Asian. Race doesn't matter as much as appearance, right?
I mean, from a police perspective, I can't always go off my gut instinct. I mean, if I see someone who's, doing illegal things, their race is not going to make me police them one way or another. So like if I know what you're saying. You're saying,
as a
like,
person, if I see someone with tattoos on their face and they wear a hoodie, whether they're white or black, I'm gonna think they're probably not a good person, even though I know good people with tattoos on their face. You know what I mean?
That's kind of like, you ever hear like Mark Cuban say that? Like Mark Cuban, I don't know if he's like the sports guy or whatever, but he talks about that, and honestly, I start to not. I mean,
I know this is dangerous territory for you, so don't say
I just
too bad.
well, I'm just talking as a person, and I just like I don't. To me, dude, it's black and white. It's black and of course, black and white. That's probably not the best of that. But to me, it's factual. It's concrete. You're either on. You're either. Geez, what's another analogy? Said black and white.
You're either a good person or you're a bad person.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
you're either committing a crime or not. If you happen to be black, okay. If you happen to be a white Asian lady or a white lady or an Asian lady or a 14-year-old kid or a 12-year-old kid, I mean, whatever, man. I'm here to enforce the laws, and I got to do what I got to do. And I think 90% of the cops out there, maybe probably 99%, are going to think that way. But you know what? There's bad doctors. There's bad lawyers. I've talked about bad doctors on this podcast. I'm not out there protesting doctors. Doctors have killed way more police this year.
I'm going to be protesting doctors on a podcast coming up soon with Dr. Lee Kroll about insurance, so don't miss that one either.
Nice.
Another shameless caveman plug.
I like it.
But at some point, you have to keep these things in perspective. I mean, if there's these questionable police shootings, right? And that, I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying if they were deemed criminal by the departments in the justice system, okay, well, what about Chicago? Because if there is 6 black people killed unjustly by police, there are hundreds in Chicago being killed by, I'm not even going to say each other, just in the civilian realm, because maybe it's white people shooting on black people, I don't know. And there's a lot of people who die from anesthesia, and there's a lot of people who die from prescription overdose. Like, there's a lot of stuff hurting the people of America, and I don't think unjust police shootings is anywhere near the top of what we. I mean, this is a crazy. We can talk about the drug epidemic from the pharmaceutical companies. We can talk about gang relations in Chicago. We can talk about poor housing and natural disasters. I mean, Jesus, I mean, you could. This is like it's such a popular like. I hate to use the word trendy thing to grab to, but it is so far away from what is really hurting.
It's so true. I totally believe you, and I'm going to say this: if there were no color, if we were all blind, we were all the exact same color, we'd be experiencing the exact same things, right? We'd be experiencing unjust murder, people going through trying times. But you know what? The people who are committing atrocious crimes under whatever color would be experiencing the exact same thing they're experiencing now. Close your eyes. Pretend there's no color. If somebody attacks you as a police officer, if somebody does something atrocious, right? The first thing in your mind isn't whether or not what color they are.
Yeah, it's like doesn't
it's
even
the
register.
situation you're in.
Totally.
So forget about the color. Pretend you can't see. It's not the color anymore. It's the situation.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I can only speak for myself. I can speak for the brothers and sisters that I work with in my department. They're all great people. My department does a good job. And you know what, man? I'd stand next to them and any type of situation, knowing that those people that I work with and myself are on the moral side of this compass. And I'd do anything for them. And I really truly believe that they're doing the best they can. In this incredible job that we have.
Awesome. I just want to say thank you, and like I said, anyone that goes in the gym with you and rolls with you, trains with you, they know what kind of person you are. And I mean, I've never seen anything racist from you or anybody that we train with that are police officers that train at our gym. And I just want to say I've had nothing but great experiences with all the guys we train with, all the state troopers, Joe I, Josh Roth, Jay Wadsworth, all them guys are all great people.
Yeah, they are.
And we're all, like, I don't know if it's because we're all involved in MMA and jiu-jitsu where we don't see color. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it helps. I think when you're consistently doing activities that are mixing the racial divide. I mean, I work out with black people all the time. I work out with Asian people and Muslim people. So, like, my experiences are not like these. I just love the internet mentality. Like, they share something, this and that. Like, what are you doing? You're not even, like, you're not experiencing it. You're just reading it and sharing it. But we are experiencing it. Like, I drove 12 hours with a Muslim. Like, I'm not sharing Muslim shit that I read about, whatever. Like, no, I'm speaking for it, or at least from some type of experience. That was only one interaction, but still, same with the police. So everyone's sharing all this and all that, both pro and con. I'm like, you aren't in this fight. You're not. And I appreciate the support pro, and I do. But at some point, we need to, like, slow down and say, like, you both sides are misinformed, you know, and social media wise, both the civilian, both pro and con. I see a lot of my friends sharing some of this police stuff, and I'm like, dude, that's not funny to us. Like, that's not like a funny meme about, like, but it's like my friend who, like, I don't know, is pro police and he thinks it's cool. And then I see, like, other people that are, like, so anti police, and I'm like, what are you guys? What are your interactions? Like, you are telling me the situation, you do nothing for it, you know, and that's really hard to swallow. So that's that double edge of social media, I guess.
It's not the profile, it's the action, right? I mean, it like, you could profile anybody every day, right? You're a Muslim, you're a fighter.
Like, say I have a beard.
Yeah, well, yeah, I could profile you easily, right? You got cauliflower ears, you got the big beard. I could say, like, oh, I'm gonna profile this guy, like, you know. Right. What am I going to say about Caveman? Like, if I could profile him and say he's uneducated, he's da-da-da-da.
Right.
But it's not the profile. It's the action. It's the person. What are they about? What's going on? So, like, I look at him, and he's bringing so many things to light. And that's what we do. Bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, black, white. You're bringing things to light. Don't profile them, right?
For sure. And I kind of I did this podcast and I started doing all this just to, like, get some amateur fighters some experience and some exposure. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff that goes on that no one talks about. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about all this stuff that no one talks about. Everyone's scared to. I'm not scared to. Like, if you hate me, but at least we're talking about what the problems are. And we're trying to come up with solutions.
Yeah.
And I think we can end there.
Yeah, I agree.
Just one more plug. Make sure you come check out my kids class at Western New York MMA, 255 Great Arrow. Check out Erik's fight team class. I want to give a big plug out to your fantasy football podcast. That is awesome. Why don't you tell them where they can find it?
Appreciate that. Real Men of Fantasy on Podbean or Fandoozy.com. If you are playing any kind of fantasy, season long or daily fantasy, you need to listen to the Real Men of Fantasy. We are cashing at about a rate of 74% right now, so listen.
That's better than the guys on GR, I'm just saying.
It is. There's no doubt about it. Anyway, Erik, thank you so much. Caveman, the show is amazing. Do you guys have anything to add?
Just want to thank Erik for coming out again. He's a hero to me. And make sure, like, you take care of your officers out on the street. They're the guys that are going to come when you need somebody, no matter what kind of shit you're in.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Great stuff, Erik. Thank you.